Chapter 1878. Long Shensi was a half-saint, and he had a purple dragon as his mount. He didn't know about the others, but since they were all holy disciples of the 6 great colleges, their cultivation must be extraordinary. Things were similar to what he had imagined. He had been set up. After he had insulted the inspection team, he had become a thorn in the side of all the holy disciples. And then, Chu Yang was very calm. And then, suddenly, a hoarse voice interrupted. The speaker was a dark-skinned young man. His eyes were black and white, like the difference between day and night. A sinister look appeared on his dark face. "Wild dog, you don't seem to understand what this means, do you? I can give you some time to let your stupid brain work properly." "All right." He spoke again. "My name is Yen Taiyan. Don't you want to know who is going to kill you later?" Yen Taiyan and Jian San were both at the undead spirit realm. Just as Chu Yang had thought, they were indeed his opponents. "Let's say you are a dog." Yen Taiyan used Jian San's model. He was really giving Chu Yang time to think. "You have bones to eat every day and you're free and unfettered. You can even be called a dog king. But one day a wild dog appears. This dog has no choice but to give up its comfortable life and fight to the death with this wild dog. How would you feel?" He described himself as a dog, and even described Chu Yang as a dog. "My name is Pan He. I'll give you some time too." The last person at the undead spirit realm was a bald middle-aged man. He had a yellow face, but at this moment, his eyes were shining brightly. His gaze was sharp and powerful, and his killing intent was dense. "Let's say you were alive and well, but were suddenly captured and sent to the battlefield. How would you feel?" Pan He also used Jian San's model. "It's my fault." Chu Yang finally couldn't help but laugh. He had felt a little guilty toward these 6 people. After all, this had happened because of him. But now, he didn't feel at all. Because even without him, these 6 people's fates were already sealed. If they were willing to become someone else's dog, then they naturally had the obligation to be a dog. According to Jian San and Pan He's words, the 2 could jump out of the category of dogs. For the time being, they were forced. However, from their words, Chu Yang did not hear the so-called forced. Besides, even if they hated him, should they hate Chu Yang? "What do you mean?" Chu Yang's mocking words caused the 6 people's eyes to flash with a fierce light. Chu Yang was silent for a while. He wanted to change his nature as a fighting chicken, but it seemed that it was not up to him. In the end, he had to be a fighting chicken in battle. "Wild dog, I'll give you 2 choices." Jian San raised 2 fingers and said, "First, you withdraw from the competition of the 6 academies immediately. Second, we kill you, and then we kill your family and friends, annihilate your entire clan, and dig out the graves of your ancestors." Yen Taiyan sneered and said, "I heard that your elder brother was caught and chopped off an arm. Don't worry, I'll chop off an arm of each of your family and friends. Then I'll chop them up and feed them to dogs, chickens, ducks, and pigs. Are you satisfied with this?" If Chu Yang didn't feel any guilt just now, then at this moment, his murderous intent was like an erupting volcano. His expression suddenly turned cold. "You have the lightning retribution as your backing," Pan He also said after Jian San and Yen Taiyan. "Therefore, you may be able to kill all 6 of us here, but we will definitely do what we said before. Even if all 6 of us die, there will definitely be someone to help us do it. And it will only be too much." "Ha!" Chu Yang was so angry that he laughed. He didn't just have the lightning retribution as his trump card. He didn't want to use it because he was afraid that it would be exposed too early. He didn't expect that he would be bullied to this extent. Chapter 1879. It was hard for him to calm down. This was the truth. Even if Chu Yang gave in today, would Jian San, Yen Taiyan, and Pan He let him go in the future? Once he lost his backing, he was sure that they would be the first ones to kill him. Because not only would he feel uneasy, but these people would also feel uneasy if he didn't die. If you want to kill me, you have to die first. Chu Yang had completely turned on his battle mode. Humph! Jian San was immediately enraged. Wild dog, we've already spoken so many good words, but you still refuse to realize your error. Then you can just wait for your entire family to be slaughtered. Everyone will beg for death. Wild dog, I'll ask you one last time. Is this really your choice? Yan Tian's eyes were like two evil spirits as they stared coldly at Chu Yang. He didn't say anything, but his killing intent surged. The aura of the other three also instantly turned extremely cold. You guys, are you trying to be unreasonable with me? Chu Yang stopped laughing. His lips curved into a cold smile, and his eyes were cold. There was always a limit to what one could do. But, as long as it involved his family and crossed this line, Chu Yang would kill them all, regardless of whether they were the Heavenly Emperor or not. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jian San, Yan Taiyan, and Pan he immediately separated. Only Jian San and Chu Yang were left in the field. They were very afraid of Chu Yang's thunder retribution. Once they separated, only one of them would be involved in the thunder retribution. When the thunder retribution ended, Chu Yang would die. They weren't worried about Jian San being besieged. Within the range of the thunder retribution, not only Jian San would suffer, but also the people around Chu Yang. Chu Yang didn't ask Shangguan and the others to retreat. He didn't plan to use the thunder retribution, but he couldn't hide his real combat strength. Ha ha! Seeing this, Jian San burst into laughter. He mocked, "Wild dog, if you don't want to use the lightning tribulation, do you think you can defeat me?" He raised a finger and said, "I can crush you in one move. I'd like to hear the details." Chu Yang just smiled. "I don't know if this is the right word, but I like these 4 words. Good, good, good." Jian San laughed sinisterly. Chu Yang's arrogance made him even angrier. "Wait, wait for me. Let this divine bird avoid the disaster first, then you can kill Chu Hang." Flutter! The parrot flew away from Chu Yang's shoulder at an incredible speed. It was obvious that it was also very scheming. It believed that Jian San was definitely trying to harm it, a divine bird. "Brother Goat, be careful." Shangguan left with Shangguan Mei and Red Bird. She didn't know Chu Yang's strength, but Parrot definitely knew. Chu Yang nodded, then stood upright with his hands behind his back. A mere 9th-level Soul Fusion Realm Cultivator actually dared to fight against a Death Soul Realm Cultivator. Such an action was simply insane. If others were to know of this, they would definitely be dumbfounded and their nerves would go numb. After all, the difference between the Soul Fusion Realm and the Death Soul Realm was the difference between the Transcendence Realm and the Nirvana Realm. The difference between the two realms was like a natural chasm. If one couldn't cross it, they wouldn't be able to defeat the opponent. However, Chu Yang wanted to cross the chasm and fight a Death Spirit Realm Cultivator. This was probably the first time in the history of the Heavenly Spirit Realm that something like this had happened. Wild dog! Jian San clearly knew that this was an excellent opportunity to kill Chu Yang. Moreover, he could avoid the risk of losing his life. However, he couldn't control his anger. He clenched his teeth so hard that they almost broke. He was so angry that he started to tremble. Chapter 1880. Buzz. Chu Yang suddenly opened his eyes in anger. In an instant, his pupils were like 2 ferocious stars. His body surged with a murderous aura. The void seemed to be frightened and let out a buzzing sound. He was completely enraged. "Wild dog, you are really arrogant. If I can't kill you with one blow today, I, Jian San, will kill myself so that I won't be embarrassed to death." Rumble! With a loud bang, a scarlet beam of light rushed out from Jian San's body and into the sky. Swoosh! A blood stick immediately flew out and landed in Jian San's hand. Suddenly, a murderous aura surged and a bloody light filled the sky. The terrifying murderous aura spread out and turned the void there into a dark red color. It was like a hell. In an instant, the sky turned red and the earth turned dark. The scene was so terrifying that the parrot, who was about to mock Jian-san, narrowed its eyes. However, when it saw Chu Yang's long hair fluttering and his sleeves fluttering under the surging fiendish power, his expression remained unchanged, and his body was as straight as a javelin. It was as if he would remain calm even if the sky were to collapse and the earth were to collapse. So, it instantly felt relieved. Shangguan Lan, Shangguan Mei, and Hong Niao looked at Chu Yang with a complicated expression, especially Shangguan Mei and Hong Niao. They did not think that Chu Yang was worthy of Shangguan Lan. However, everything that Chu Yang had done was astonishing. Even the young elites that they knew wouldn't be able to do so many astonishing things if they only had Chu Yang's strength and didn't have any background. In addition, Chu Yang's speed of rise made them speechless. Previously, they were worried about Chu Yang, who was in the Transcendence realm. However, only a short time had passed. Who would think that a Transcendence realm expert could pose a threat to Chu Yang? At this moment, he was facing an expert in the Death Spirit realm. It was like facing a Transcendence realm expert when he was in the Spirit realm. Now it was like this. What about in the future? Who could guarantee that the young talents or young masters they had originally thought highly of would be able to defeat Chu Yang? The most shocking thing was that they actually realized that they weren't worried about Chu Yang. Instead, they believed that Chu Yang would definitely win like before. Jian-san's expression changed slightly. Facing Chu Yang's aura, he couldn't help but feel a trace of fear in his heart. Jealousy could be seen in his eyes. He had to admit that Chu Yang was indeed a genius. He was only at the 9th level of the soul amalgamation realm, but he was able to make him feel fear. Genius. He smiled faintly, his eyes filled with endless mockery. He grinned at Chu Yang, revealing his white teeth, and said, "Isn't it very interesting to kill a genius?" Chu Yang looked at Jian-san coldly and sneered, "I was going to change my personality and restrain my murderous nature. But I have to kill you first." "Haha." Jian-san laughed again. "Wild dog, you still want to cultivate your character? Unfortunately, you won't have the chance." Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Jian-san soared into the sky. He swung the blood rod in his hand and smashed it down at Chu Yang. Buzz, buzz. As the blood rod smashed down, it quickly enlarged and became as big as a sky pillar. Rivers of blood appeared on the stick. Waves of blood surged and rumbled. Blood dragons also drilled out from within. There were a total of 9 of them, and they coiled around the blood stick. An ancient and extremely ferocious aura swept out in all directions, turning the entire sky dark red. It was as if a dark red sky had fallen from the sky. Chapter 1881. What? The wild dog directly intercepted the power of heaven and earth and transformed it into Dharma power. How can this be done? Yen Taiyan, Pan He, and the other 4 people's hearts skipped a beat, almost jumping out of their chests. Jian-san, who had a clearer perception, was even more shocked. His eyelids twitched, and an ominous feeling burst out from the bottom of his heart. Therefore, he was even more ruthless and did not hold back at all. Facing the cotton-like Dharma power layer, he clearly knew that it was a buffer to eliminate the power of his blood stick, but without any hesitation, he directly smashed it down. Dong! As the heavens shook and the earth shook, a loud sound that made one's scalp go numb resounded through the world. The cotton-like magical power layer was directly smashed to pieces, turning into a rain of light that shot out in all directions. It was extremely beautiful. Jian-san's fierceness was extreme, which made the parrot and Shangguan Lan shocked. Boom! A fierce wind swept down, and Jian-san's blood stick had already appeared above Chu Yang's head, wrapped in endless power, endless fierceness, and fierceness fiercely smashed down. Close combat with me? I'm not afraid of close combat. Chu Yang did not dodge, and cold light burst out from his eyes. In an instant, he seemed to have turned into a crystal, sparkling and translucent, shining with 7 colors of neon, like a colored diamond. His fist was like the hardest diamond in the world, shining brightly, dispersing the dark red color emitted by Jian San's blood stick, and the sky instantly turned into a colorful area. Dang! The crystal fist smashed on the huge blood stick, accompanied by a loud sound, resounding between heaven and earth. Clearly visible waves swept out from Chu Yang's body. Ripples visible to the naked eye fluctuated on Chu Yang's crystal body. Silently, all the clothes on his upper body were all torn, revealing his upper body. In the void, circles of ripples on the ground also surged out like boundless wave. Boom! The ground under Chu Yang's feet suddenly burst and collapsed, forming a huge pit under his feet, but Chu Yang was safe and sound under the blood stick. He resisted. He actually managed to block it. The sounds of Yen Taiyan, Pan He, and the other 4 sucking in cold breaths of air instantly resounded throughout the world. Especially when they saw the sparkling and translucent fist. Compared to the blood stick that was like a heavenly pillar, the fist was simply too small. At first glance, it looked as if an ant was lifting an object that was many times larger than itself. Jian San's pupils dilated as if they were about to explode. He didn't dare to believe it, and the fear in his heart was torn open again. The parrot was also shocked. Shangguan Lan was also shocked. Only Chu Yang didn't have much of a reaction towards this. He'd experienced numerous twists and turns in the gods' world, and in the end, he'd even ventured into that strange world before his body had attained godhood. So, in terms of strength alone, why would he fear the undead spirit realm? How could he possibly be unable to resist it? He didn't use his experience in the god realm as a source of confidence. He only used it as a basis for his judgment. His self-confidence was never built on anything. It was only because he acknowledged himself. To him, it was just a way of thinking. Wild dog, do you think it's that easy to block it? 9 dragon roars resounded, and 9 blood dragons rushed out from the blood stick, carrying boundless murderous intent. It was like a long river of murderous intent, surging violently. Bang! 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 Chu Yang raised his fist and smashed it. As soon as he smashed one of the blood dragons, he immediately felt a murderous aura penetrating into his body. His magic power was thrown into disarray, and he suddenly stopped moving. 8 blood dragons bombarded his body. Boom! Chapter 1882. Thump, 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 thump. Chu Yang was sent flying a kilometer away. He tried his best to regain control of his body. His feet landed in the void and made muffled sounds. However, he was unable to do so. After flying a few hundred meters away, he once again exerted his strength and barely managed to stop his body. What? At this time, he spat out a mouthful of black blood and said to himself, "What a terrifying murderous chi! I underestimated you." Pan He and the others who were watching the battle felt a chill in their hearts. Could it be that this wild dog had not used his full strength yet? Jian San's blood rod was an unknown treasure. The murderous chi contained in it was indeed terrifying. It not only corroded flesh and spiritual energy, but also one's mind. Once one's mind was invaded, he would lose his mind and fall into madness. It was terrifying. Dang, dang, dang. Chu Yang allowed the murderous chi to attack and corrode his soul. When the murderous chi landed on his soul, it was like a sword landing on an unparalleled divine metal. It broke and disappeared. It could not do anything to Chu Yang's soul. Not only did his body become a god, but his mind also became a god. He was just not used to such murderous chi. He was not prepared when he came in contact with it. Otherwise, he would not have suffered such a loss. Chu Yang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were as bright as the stars in the night sky. He sneered and said, "That Jian San, is it fun to kill geniuses?" Jian San's face twitched. It was red and hot. It was as if he was being roasted on fire. He was ashamed and angry. Wild dog, it's too early for you to be proud. Die. Chu Yang was some distance away from Jian-san. It was enough for him to say, "What the hell? Didn't we agree to kill me in one move? If I can block it, you can kill yourself. You don't have to be embarrassed to death. That's how you die. I've seen it for a long time." Pooh. Jian-san, who was flying at an extremely fast speed, suddenly paused when he heard this. He almost came to a halt. At this moment, while he was flying at high speed, he felt as if he had crashed into an iron plate. His entire face was still flattened and unrecognizable. As for the iron plate that was blocking him, it was the arrogant words that he had just uttered. It was still warm. Dong. Chu Yang dodged, and Jian and the other two fell down like a heavenly pillar. The void trembled, and a loud sound rang out. "And here I was wondering how great you were." Chu Yang continued to sneer. "It turns out that you're just a master who farts with his mouth." Jian-san couldn't refute at all. He really wanted to slap himself. Of all things to say, why did he have to say this? Wild Dog grabbed his pigtail and ridiculed and humiliated him. "I've lived long enough to see a master who farts with his mouth. I've lived long enough to see a master who farts with his mouth. I've lived long enough to see a master who farts with his mouth." The parrots directly made 36 copies of themselves, divided into 2 rows. One row of parrots taunted Jian-san in an orderly manner, as if they were counting off. The other row of parrots taunted Jian-san with another slogan: "Fart, fart, fart. It's really interesting to fart with the most powerful parrots." 2 rows of parrots taunted Jian-san loudly. Even though the taunts weren't provocative enough, they still pierced Jian-san's heart like thousands of swords. Jian-san's body convulsed as if he had an epileptic seizure. The words of parrots were more aggressive than any attack. It was simply unparalleled in the world. Waha! When the 36 parrots started laughing wildly and mocking Jian-san, Jian-san was so embarrassed that he almost fainted on the spot. Chapter 1883. Pan He and the other 4 couldn't find any reason to refute Jian-san's words. The bird was telling the truth. "You'd better shut up." They finally spoke up. Jian-san was one with them. They were bound together for good or ill. Before a battle of life and death, words are just to boost morale. It's a joke to take it seriously. What a weird way of thinking. Why do you care about such trifles when you're about to die? Stupid. Jian-san was relieved when he got support. That was the truth. Who hadn't said that being slapped in the face was more important than their own life and death? However, in an instant, Jian-san's heart completely calmed down. Ha! Jian-san, Pan He, and the others' arguments were instantly dispelled. Chu Yang's signature chuckle was heard, and the arguments of Jian-san, Pan He, and the others disappeared. Bang! A cluster of black flames came out of Jian-san's body and burned fiercely. The black flames danced and crackled as they burned the void. It was as if all the water and impurities in the void had been burned away. In the blink of an eye, the noises stopped. Nirvana flame. The Nirvana flame was unique to the Nirvana realm. It was the flame that cultivators needed to break through to the next realm. "Wild dog, I'll stand here and let you kill me." Jian-san was so angry that he shouted again, "Do you dare? If you can pass through the Nirvana flame, I'll strangle you to death." Bullshit again. Bullshit again. After Chu Yang finished, it was the parrot's turn. There were 37 of them, including himself. They were like a row of slaps on Jian-san's face. "Wild dog, you don't dare, right?" Jian-san felt like he had made a mistake. He was so embarrassed that his face turned red and he couldn't help but shout. "Ha ha!" Chu Yang chuckled again. This made Jian-san even more uncomfortable than his sarcastic remarks. "You're deliberately luring me to come close to you so that you can kill me, right?" Chu Yang thought for a while, and opened his mouth to speak. Jian-san had a plan, and so did he. He needed to get close to Jian-san. He had never been afraid of anyone in close combat. "I'll fulfill your wish." After a slight hesitation, he sneered and said, "So what if I let you succeed in your scheme? In the end, the result is still the same. I showed off my godly martial prowess, and you showed off your laughingstock." Da-da-da. Chu Yang took a step in the void and walked straight towards Jian San, causing Jian San's eyelids to twitch involuntarily. Pan He and the other four also looked at each other. No one could be sure that the Nirvana flames would be able to restrain Chu Yang. But a tribulation flame like the flames of rebirth was shocking in the end, and no one below the rebirth realm was able to endure it. This was also the unbreakable truth of the heavenly spirit world's martial world. No one could break it. No matter how extraordinary the wild dog was, he couldn't break this iron law. Moreover, Jian San wasn't a fool. If he felt something was wrong, he would definitely fight back, and that would be a good opportunity. As for his face, Jian San had already lost it. He didn't need to care about breaking his promise again. The five of them didn't say anything. Jian San also thought that the Nirvana flames were very shocking. No one below the Nirvana realm could do anything about it, so how could the wild dog do it? Everyone had their own thoughts, and the general idea was always different. Wild dog, are you trying to get close to me and then attack me? Jian San sorted out his thoughts and calmed down completely. He started to mock and run rampant again. Chapter 1884. While they were talking, Chu Yang had already arrived in front of Jian San. When he was about 3 meters away from Jian San, he stopped and seemed to be hesitating. "Wild dog, don't you dare?" Yen Taiyan immediately sneered. "Don't tell me you're also fart with your mouth?" "Not don't tell me you are. Anyone below the Nirvana realm will die if they touch the Nirvana flame. How dare wild dog?" "Jian San, watch out for his sneak attack." Pan He and the other 3 people kept talking. Their words were full of sarcasm. They were all trying to provoke Chu Yang. At this moment, they were really worried that Chu Yang would not dare to touch the Nirvana flame. If he did, it would be really troublesome. Chu Yang suddenly felt that this kind of provocation was really childish and ridiculous. "As you wish." He walked towards Jian San again, very vigilant against Jian San's sneak attack. However, nothing happened. Finally, he stood in front of Jian San and said, "You little thing, watch out. I'm going to strangle you to death as you said." "Wild dog." Jian San sneered, "Do you dare? What do you think?" Whoosh! At this moment, Chu Yang's hand was like a divine sword. With a whoosh, it directly pierced into the Nirvana flame. With a bang, the flames of the Nirvana flame flourished and soared into the sky. The raging flames were incomparably astonishing. They burned fiercely and covered an even larger area, directly wrapping Chu Yang's entire body. "Haha, Wild Dog will definitely die this time. If only part of Wild Dog's body was wrapped, I'm not sure. However, his whole body is burned by the Nirvana flame. It's hard for him to survive." "Stupid, really stupid. I've never seen such a stupid person. He's as stupid as a pig." Such a scene made Yen Taiyan, Pan He, and the other 4 people happy. They laughed heartily and ridiculed at the same time. "Everyone, how about I also make a vow?" Yen Taiyan began to mock him. "If that's the case and the wild dog still doesn't die, I'll just slit my own throat and commit suicide. I don't want to be embarrassed to death." "Haha, Brother Yen, count me in. Count me in. What kind of bullshit genius is this? Do you think that by grasping this point, you can stump us and make us a laughingstock? After today, this wild dog is the real joke." The 5 of them were certain that Chu Yang was going to die, so they became even more delighted. They became even more unbridled as they mocked him with all their might. However, the target of their ridicule was the parrot. At this moment, Chu Yang was in a life-and-death situation. How could he care about these things? Idiot! Idiot! Moron! The 37 parrots counted off all the words used to scold people as fools. Their expressions were filled with extreme disdain. Just that expression alone was enough to make Yen Taiyan and the other 4 fly into a rage. In this regard, the parrot had an unparalleled talent. Who could compare to it in terms of infuriating people? There's no need to pay attention to a feathered beast. Just deal with it later. What does a feathered beast know? It just has a sharp tongue. You guys care about that feathered beast, but I care about that woman. Hee, we're in luck. That's right, we're really blessed. I've never seen such a beautiful woman before. They had already set their sights on Shangguanlan and even said such words to her face. Shangguanlan's pretty face was frosty. No one had ever dared to be so presumptuous in front of her. Even the holy disciples of the 6 great academies didn't dare, but these people in front of her dared to do so. At this moment, she finally understood why Chu Yang was so ruthless to his enemies. It was because of the great hatred in his heart. However, she didn't make a sound. Instead, waves of mist gushed out from her delicate body and completely shrouded her. Chapter 1885. Yen Taiyan and Pan He didn't care. Once they got rid of Chu Yang, the wild dog, would that woman be able to escape? Jian-san, it's just a wild dog. How long are you going to roast it? Don't tell me you want to eat dog meat immediately? Yen Taiyan was in a good mood and couldn't help but tease. Ha ha! Pan He also laughed out loud. Jian-san, if the dog bites you, are you going to bite the dog back? I say, can't you pay attention to your status? There are many ways to make this wild dog suffer a fate worse than death. Actually, watching that wild dog being burned alive is also a good thing. That makes sense. The wild dog's body is obviously strong. It will take some time to burn it to death. His miserable howls will be enough for us to listen to for a while. Who knows, he might even beg us to give him a quick death. Ha, the 5 of them burst out laughing. They didn't have to worry about being involved in Chu Yang's lightning tribulation and risking their lives, because this wild dog was about to die. Gu ji ji. At this moment, a strange sound came from the burning flames. That sound seemed to be the sound of a person being choked and unable to breathe. Immediately, Pan He and the other 4's smiles froze. They thought to themselves, it can't be. The black flames danced and were even denser than the black smoke. They couldn't see the situation inside at all. They could only see that there were 2 people inside. Impossible. Yen Taiyan sneered and said, how could it be the dog that grabbed Jian-san's neck? It must be Jian-san who grabbed the dog's neck and wanted to choke it to death. When the other 4 heard this, they couldn't help but laugh. They mocked themselves in their hearts. They were too suspicious. The wild dog was already burned by the nirvana flame. How could it turn the situation around? They were just scaring themselves. Yen Taiyan's smile was no longer forced, but completely released. He said with a smile, ladies and gentlemen, should we record the final scene of Wild Dog's tragic death? No matter what, this wild dog is still very frightening. If the news spread that we were the ones who killed it, wouldn't we gain infinite glory? Brother Yen is right. We almost messed up the big picture. Isn't that so? This is an important matter. Record everything down. This is a glorious moment. Yen Taiyan immediately took out a sparkling and translucent bead and aimed it at the black flames. However, at this moment, the black flames slowly and without any warning, suddenly weakened, revealing 2 people on fire. It's time to witness the glory. Let's see how badly Wild Dog died. This is impossible. Yen Taiyan was originally smiling like a flower, but his words were now incoherent, and he was stammering. He blinked his eyes, and when he saw that nothing had changed, he slapped himself again. Nothing had changed. Over at Nirvana Flame's side, the taller flaming man grabbed the shorter flaming man with one hand and lifted him into the air. The short man on fire struggled powerlessly in the air like a drowning man. Jian-san was short and sharp, because what was condensed was the essence. The shorter one was Jian-san. Yen Taiyan was dumbfounded. He felt a chill from head to toe. How could the style change so quickly? Was the heavens playing a joke on him? He wasn't recording any glorious moment. He was recording his own joke, how he courted death. The smile on Pan He's face completely froze. His whole body trembled like a sieve. This, how is this possible? Chapter 1886. Cluck, cluck, cluck. In midair, Jian-san's struggle was getting weaker and weaker. His every movement was very slow, like an extremely weak old man. Finally, his body suddenly stopped, his head tilted, and his arm fell down silently. He was no longer breathing. Bang! Chu Yang let go of Jian-san's hand, and Jian-san fell freely from midair, landing on the ground with a muffled sound. What are you surprised about? His eyes were filled with endless coldness. His gaze was like a blade, like a demonic blade, slashing towards Yen Taiyan, Pan He, and the others. His killing intent surged, and the void behind him was suddenly dyed red, as if it was a battlefield, with mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and rivers of blood flowing. Chu Yang's anger had reached its peak. What Yen Taiyan and the others said just now fell into his ears. If a man publicly blasphemed and humiliated his woman in front of him, there should be no man who would not be angry. Maybe it was very vulgar, maybe he was very possessive, or maybe it was some other bullshit. When he saw Shangguan Lan being wronged, his chest was about to explode. He did not care about hiding his strength or hiding his trump cards anymore. What are you so happy about? The nirvana flame on Chu Yang's body quickly gathered in his palm. The black flame jumped, but it could not do anything to him at all. It was as obedient as a puppy. Is the nirvana flame so rare that warriors below the nirvana realm can't resist it? Is this really the law that can't be broken? How dare you be so presumptuous? His voice was filled with killing intent. Today, I will break this bullshit law, so that I can tell you a truth. All the laws in the world are made to be broken. There is nothing rare about it, and it can't be used as the basis for you to be arrogant. As soon as the boundlessly domineering words entered into the ears of Yen Taiyan and the others, it shook their minds to the point of buzzing. This wild dog had actually broken the iron law of the martial Tao. Nirvana flames were really unable to do anything to him in the slightest. They could not help but feel a great fear in their hearts. Among the people in the world, there was actually such a person who was completely superior to everyone else. This kind of person, they were born to be superior, and no one could compare to them. They could only look up to and be in awe. And now, not only had they encountered such a person, they had even become his enemy. This was definitely a very unfortunate thing. In the face of death, there was no time for astonishment, no time for disbelief, and no time for cowardice. Yen Taiyan understood. Pan He understood. The other three naturally understood as well. If I should be surprised, then I'll be surprised. So what if I'm making a fuss over nothing? Wild dog, I'm only surprised because I don't care about you at all. Killing Jian-san will only make you die more miserably. I don't know what you're so arrogant about. You actually mocked us for making a fuss over nothing. How foolish. The playfulness in their words disappeared, and their voices became incomparably deep and heavy. As soon as Chu Yang's signature chuckle came out, the five men's expressions changed. They knew that they were just putting on a tough front, but they were actually cowards. Wild Dog had seen through them with a single glance. Humph. Yen Taiyan coldly snorted, Wild Dog, you've only succeeded for a moment. The nirvana flame can't burn you to death, but can't the death chi do anything to you? With a rumbling sound, the death chi rolled out from his body, like a tidal wave, and instantly filled the surroundings, causing all the life in the area to be extinguished. It was deathly silent, and the void was like a person aging, turning into a deathly gray color. Chapter 1887. Plaything, the moment of glory you recorded just now, was it glory? Chu Yang's gun suddenly turned, surprising everyone. He, who was furious, actually did such a thing. Instead of attacking, he mocked Yen Taiyan and the others. Whoosh! Not only Yen Taiyan, but the other four's faces instantly changed, becoming extremely ugly. Chu Yang only said a few words, then laughed coldly. Plaything, you think the death aura is terrifying? Then do you dare to learn from Jian-san? I promise I will strangle you all to death just like Jian-san. The anger in his heart, simply killing people was not enough to vent. It's just killing a mere wild dog like you, I don't need to waste so much energy. The harsh words made Yen Taiyan feel even worse than having his lungs pierced and his heart dug out, but he did not dare to do so. Jian-san's example was in front of him. How could he follow in Jian-san's footsteps? The wild dog's astonishing power was not to be doubted. If it was not afraid of the Nirvana flame, then it was possible that it was not afraid of death aura. I only ask, do you dare? Chu Yang said coldly. If you don't dare, then say you don't dare. Killing trash like you won't waste much of my time, will it? Being unable to back down, what else did they have to worry about? How could Yen Taiyan and the others care about their own face? Brother Pan, for the sake of caution, the two of us will deal with the wild dog together. Yen Taiyan finished speaking, then said to the other three, I'll leave that woman to you, it's best if... He originally wanted to say it was best if they did not kill her, as they still needed her to celebrate and vent, but he did not dare to say it out loud, because he was worried that he would completely enrage Chu Yang. But what kind of person was Chu Yang? When he heard the word, best, with his black-bellied nature, he already knew the meaning behind it. The killing intent on Chu Yang's body became even stronger, and he was about to attack, but a voice suddenly interrupted. You 5 playthings, stop right there. The parrot said, This divine bird's benevolent heart is acting up, and I really can't bear to see you die so miserably. Therefore, at the moment when Chu Hang is enraged, I took a great risk and broke through all obstacles to warn you. It immediately shouted, Hurry up and commit suicide. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. When Chu Hang goes crazy, even this divine bird is scared, let alone you guys. It was not the right time for it to play tricks, but as a parrot, it still played tricks. Getting angry wouldn't solve any problems. It would only make things worse. Venting hatred or taking revenge wouldn't work either. The parrot was the only one who could warn Chu Yang. After all, Chu Yang still had a brother who was in the hands of others. The parrot had intervened. Naturally, it didn't want Chu Yang to expose his trump card. Only the parrot, who knew Chu Yang very well, could understand all of this. Previously, it had already seen through Chu Yang's constant forbearance. Of course, his woman was important, but his elder brother was equally important. It was not a good thing for him to act irrationally at a critical juncture. Little bastard, get out of my way. The parrot ignored him, and said to Yen Taiyan and the others, I say, don't hesitate. It's almost too late. Let this divine bird remind you, what is Chu Hang's specialty? Needless to say, it's digging a hole, waiting for you fools to fall into it. Flutter. Chapter 1888. As it spoke, it poked at the hole Chu Yang had dug with its wings. Do you see that? Do you feel the fluctuation of the array? Chu Hang is now a Saint Array Master. Why don't you kill yourself? Boom. Yen Taiyan and the other four's minds went blank. Only then did they remember that Chu Yang was an Array Master. If they wanted to kill Chu Yang, they had to at least have a basic understanding of Chu Yang. Thus, they knew that Chu Yang was an Array Master. They looked in the direction the parrot was pointing. When they clearly felt the fluctuation of the array, they couldn't help but believe it. Their expressions changed again. The parrot's voice sounded again. Don't be fooled. The fluctuation of the array seal looks like a level 9 array seal, but it's actually used to confuse the holy disciples. If it's true, you'll be in trouble. Otherwise, when that time comes, this divine bird will not be able to save all of you from a fate worse than death." At this moment, Chu Yang was also slightly stunned. He was an array master, a level 9 array master. It was enough to deal with those in the life realm with arrays. When he broke into the God's world and obtained the source of the God's world, Chu Yang had broken through to level 9 array master at that time. However, he actually forgot about this. "Master, control your anger a little. Otherwise, the little girl will look down on you. Moreover, it was little Scum who stopped you. The little girl can't say anything about you." Bing Kuan also transmitted his voice in Chu Yang's grotto heaven. Chu Yang's problem was not wrong, but he needed to control it. After all, there were many enemies in the dark. If one of the remaining 5 escaped, it would be very troublesome. Chu Yang's heart was filled with anger. He was so aggrieved that he panicked. In the end, it was because he was not strong enough. He was also stupid. He was obviously a level 9 array master, but he did not set up the array in advance. At this time, he only remembered it when little Scum reminded him. "Got it," he responded to Bing Kuan. In the end, he restrained the anger in his heart. However, he felt a little guilty towards Shangguanlan. However, he had to admit that it was a blessing to have someone remind him at a crucial time. "Brother Goat, there won't be any problems for me to kill those 3 life realm experts?" Shangguanlan transmitted her voice. When Chu Yang heard this, he couldn't help but feel warm in his heart. However, such an understanding Shangguanlan, his fiancée, made him feel even more guilty. "Is there any danger?" "Brother Yang, you can rest assured." Shangguanlan's phoenix eyes were cold. Her perception was astonishing, so she naturally saw through all the changes in Chu Yang's expression just now. She also generally understood Chu Yang's male chauvinism. In that instant, she felt that the impudence of Yen Taiyan and the others was a blessing. Without them, she wouldn't have known how much Chu Yang cared about her. At the same time, the anger and killing intent in her heart surged and boiled. Chu Yang had always been worried and concerned about his elder brother's safety. He also had to carefully face the cunning and treacherous enemy in the dark. Just now, he had wanted to protect her with all his might and not let her be wronged. In the end, he had no choice but to endure it. His self-blaming expression made her feel very distressed. "Little bastard, you don't need to bully their intelligence anymore. Leave these 3 small fries to your sister-in-law. I will kill the other 2. Chu Yang was furious. His voice was as cold as ice. He said to Yen Taiyan and Pan He, "There is no formation, but you will definitely die at my hands." The parrot rolled its eyes. Chu Hang was extraordinarily angry, insisting on killing these 2 things in a direct confrontation. It also understood the other meaning. Shangguanlan, its sister-in-law, was also an awesome person. These 2 future husband and wife were extremely powerful. If they wanted to kill 5 small fries, it wouldn't be a problem. Chapter 1889. Bah! As soon as the red bird heard the parrot's shameless words, it immediately said in disdain, "That stupid parrot is a perfect match made in heaven. I'm the one who contributed the most." The red bird could be considered as Shangguanlan and Chu Yang's lovebird when they were young. Bah, love between a man and a woman, what does a stupid red bird know? The parrot replied in disdain, "This divine bird has long seen through the mysteries of heaven. I calculated with my claws and pulled the string of fate, which led to today's events. It is unfortunate to have such a blunder as you. Oh, blunder, what a blunder! I'll fight with you." The red bird was so angry that it directly started to fight with the parrot. Chu Yang was used to it and ignored it. He pointed at Yen Taiyan and Pan He and said, "You 2 things, there's no little bastard to delay your death. You can go now." Swoosh! Shangguanlan moved and instantly stood side by side with Chu Yang, coldly staring at the 3 life realm experts. In the air, the two of them seemed to be working together, but their aura and momentum were extremely shocking. Standing side by side in the air, it was as if the sun and the moon appeared at the same time. In an instant, the world was overshadowed. The husband and wife were of the same mind, their sharpness could cut through metal. Although there were no words, there was endless tacit understanding between them. Such tacit understanding was like the circulation of the mysteries of heaven, making the two of them look peerless. Especially Shangguanlan, her lips and teeth were crystal clear, her skin was white and tender, her hair was black, pearls and jade were intertwined with gold like flowing light, and her tassels rippled like waves. She was so charming that people couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Swoosh! Swoosh! Wild dog, you're just a dog without a formation. Why are you so arrogant? At this time, Yan Tian's eyes were extremely cold. Didn't you kill Jian-san because of carelessness? If we really fight, you're just a dog. Pan He and Chu Yang were both afraid and furious. A mere ninth-layer soul harmonious realm cultivator dared to be so presumptuous and treat them as nothing. Wild dog, you're just relying on women in the end. What makes you think you can be so arrogant? Hiding behind a woman is already extremely cowardly. What face do you have to be angry? Are you worthy? If not for this woman, killing you would only take a few minutes. Even with this damned woman, how long do you think she can last? When I cut off his or her head, I want to see what kind of sorrowful expression you have on your face. The three life spirit realm experts also laughed coldly and mocked him without end. I really want to slap all of you to death, Chu Yang said gloomily. After being provoked like this, he felt extremely vexed. If it was in the past, he would have been able to deal with them shamelessly and infuriate them half to death. However, he had no choice but to face the fact that his strength was indeed too weak. He did not feel good about it. Strength. Chu Yang once again had an inexhaustible desire for cultivation. He absolutely did not hope that when he met Shangguanlan's parents one day, they would ask him if he could protect their daughter for the rest of her life, and he would be speechless. Humph! Shangguanlan couldn't help but snort coldly. You still dare to be so presumptuous at this time. I really can't forgive you. Damned woman, I'll let you be stubborn for now. I'd like to see how you're going to kneel and beg for mercy like a bitch later. Screech, a high-pitched screech was heard. In a flash, all kinds of clouds gathered around Shangguanlan. The clouds were dense, as if the gate to the heavens had opened. Chapter 1890. At the same time, endless colorful neon lights burst out from where she was, extremely dazzling. When he arrived there, he saw countless streaks of colorful light. An incomparably huge rainbow phoenix had already appeared. At this moment, it was slowly flapping a pair of phoenix wings. The colorful phoenix was covered in colorful neon light. Its body was extremely beautiful. Every part of it had an innate nobility, as if it was the noblest existence in the world, the leader of all living things. Is that a real phoenix? The pupils of the three spirit of life realm cultivators shrank. The colorful phoenix in front of them did not seem to be condensed by the chi of life, but a real phoenix. It really shocked them. It's not a real phoenix, but I can't feel any chi of life. Has her chi of life reached the level where she can create things? Chi of life represented life. When it reached the extreme, it could create things with chi of life. But that was the extreme realm, and it also meant that one had mastered the profound meaning of life to the extreme. Few people could do it. Perhaps no one in the entire East continent could do it. Therefore, it was shocking. It also directly proved that Shangguanlan's talent was peerless. She was not inferior to Chu Yang at all. She might even be far superior to Chu Yang. The three spirit of life realm cultivators were as if they were facing a great enemy. Their nerves were stretched to the extreme, and their hearts were filled with reverence for Shangguanlan. They really did not expect that the woman they had just taken liberties with was so shocking and terrifying. Yen Tai Yen and Pan he noticed the movement on the other side, and their hearts shrank. It's dangerous now. Chu Yang was also slightly shocked. He did not expect Shangguan Lan to be so powerful. The aura on Shangguan Lan was even stronger and more shocking than that of Long Shensi and Seven Stars, who were half-saint realm cultivators. Maybe Lan Lan can even kill a half-saint realm cultivator easily. When he exclaimed, the Ice Kuan also said in surprise, "Master, your fiancée is not ordinary. I could not see her true strength before." Who could say that? Chu Yang also could not sense Shangguan Lan's true strength. For a moment, the pressure in his heart suddenly increased. If he wanted to be worthy of Shangguan Lan, he was afraid that he would have to work harder. Waha, she is indeed Chu Hang's wife. She is indeed this divine bird's sister-in-law. After a moment of shock, the parrot began to laugh maniacally. This divine bird's sister-in-law is the most beautiful in the world. Nobody can compare to her. She's also the most powerful in the world, capable of suppressing the ancient. This divine bird can now fly sideways. Waha! In the air, the colorful phoenix gently flapped its wings. It did not cause any wind to blow, nor did it disturb the air or the void. It was extremely gentle. A beautiful figure stood on top of the colorful phoenix. She seemed to be aloof from the world and had a peerless charm. Shangguan Lan was already holding a divine sword in her hand. Her phoenix-like eyes were full of power. She looked dignified and slightly arrogant. When she raised her head slightly, she was very elegant, revealing her snow-white neck. She waved the divine sword in her hand, and the sword light that shone seemed to make the world tremble. At this moment, Shangguan Lan was extremely dazzling. She was so dazzling that everything in the world seemed to have disappeared, except for her. Chu Yang looked at her in a daze. Damn it, how did this happen? This woman is even more terrifying than before. The three life spirit realm experts couldn't help but feel their hearts palpitate. Chapter 1891. Although her voice was very pleasant, it was too cold, making people shudder. Make your move. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. The three of them were already timid. Their bodies trembled when they heard this. They did not dare to make a move. They directly apologized. Fairy, we were blind just now. Please forgive us. We didn't mean to offend you. Ignorance is blameless. We didn't know that you were here, so we offended you. They had to do this. Such a woman was unparalleled in beauty, talent, and strength. Who knew how many people adored her? Among these people, there was no lack of amazing talents with strong background. Perhaps their master was one of those who adored this woman. How could they dare to offend her? How could they dare to make a move? It's too late. Shangguan Lan's clear and indifferent voice said, although I was angry the first time, I didn't want to take your lives. But you've spoken dirty words again and again. I can't forgive you. Fairy, please forgive us. We're just following orders. I hope that Fairy will spare us this time for the sake of the monk and the Buddha. Fairy, you must be acquainted with our master. Please be magnanimous. The three of them begged for mercy. They wanted to cry but had no tears. They wished they could pull out their tongues. For them, this was really a disaster. Even if their master knew all this, he would kill them to appease Shangguan Lan's anger. Not for the sake of the monk? Shangguan Lan raised her eyebrows slightly and said coldly, they don't deserve it. Even ants are greedy for life. If Fairy insists on doing this, we can only offend you. Such a wild dog is not worthy of Fairy. Fairy, why do you have to make a move for this wild dog? The three of them begged for mercy, but to no avail. They could only bite the bullet and fight with Shangguan Lan. He's not someone you can judge. Even your master doesn't have the right to judge him. Shangguan Lan immediately shouted angrily. After that, she thought of all the things that Chu Yang had encountered in the East Continent. Every time he was discriminated against and targeted, he could not even walk a single step in peace. Then she thought of Chu Yang's joking and scolding in the past. He was unrestrained and did not care about what others said. She thought that the discrimination in the East Continent was probably a very important reason. Therefore, she became angry again and directly attacked. With a wave of her jade-like hand, the tip of her sword flickered and sword chi burst forth silently. The sword chi converged on a single point and instantly, a flower appeared. A peony, a white peony. Although the peony flower was extremely beautiful, it did not have any trace of sword chi. It only released waves of fragrance that permeated the world. Such a flower seemed to be no different from an ordinary flower. However, when the fragrance of the flower spread, the three people's expressions changed greatly. What kind of sword technique is this? The fragrance of the flowers seems to be sword chi. The sharpness of the flower fragrance is sharper than any sword energy. It was somewhat inconceivable, and even more unfathomable. The fragrance of the flowers was sword chi. Smelling the fragrance of the flowers meant that the sword chi had already entered the body. Oh no! Thinking of this, the three people turned pale with horror. They immediately urged the rolling death chi in their bodies to protect their internal organs. However, it was still too late. It was probably because Shangguanlan's sword technique was too miraculous that they were caught off guard at the first moment. Ah! Chapter 1892. In their throats and mouths, there seemed to be countless small needles flying around, destroying everything. Even though they tried to defend themselves, their throats were still broken, and their tongues were cut off. They spat out mouthfuls of blood, looking very miserable, cutting off their noses, cutting off their tongues, and making them mute. These seemed to be three punishments. Shangguanlan was punishing and teaching them a lesson. Which I'll kill you. You're vicious. A woman's heart is the most vicious. Your heart is like a snake's. The three of them no longer had any scruples. They activated their cultivation, and when they could speak again, they were all a little crazy. However, the fear in their hearts had reached its peak. The other party had not done anything yet, and they had already been seriously injured. What if she really attacked? It was unimaginable. The scene in front of her was a little too bloody. Shangguanlan did not like it, and she frowned. This was naturally not her original intention. However, the three people in front of her were actually so weak. She hadn't even used her true sword technique, and they were already unable to withstand it. Rumble. Life chi surged, and the void fluctuated like a vast ocean, making a loud noise that was louder than the sound of real waves. Buddha's exorcism hand. Among the three, the first person flew straight above Shangguanlan's head and pressed down with his palm. Infinite golden light burst out, and a giant golden handprint of thousands of feet in size immediately formed and slammed down. In the palm of the giant handprint there was a black tower. The sound of Sanskrit chants rushed out from it, overwhelming Shangguanlan and surging in all directions, forming golden ripples. The Buddhist method, the sound of Sanskrit chants directly attacked one's mind. Thousand Swords style. The second person, like the incarnation of a beast, roared again and again. In an instant, 1,000 swords burst out and shot toward Shangguanlan from all directions. For a time, the world was full of sword light and sharp sword chi, filling every corner of the void. The endless sharp whistling sound almost pierced people's eardrums. Blood Demon Vine. With a swoosh, the last person took out a weapon, which was a rattan. The barbs on the rattan were like heavenly hooks, dripping with blood. The devil chi surged like a celestial sword, piercing through the void and going straight for Shangguanlan's throat. The thoughts of these three people were very clear, and their battle tactics were also very clear. One of them would fight head-on, and that would be the right move. Another would attack, and that would be the surprise move. The last person would break the surface, and that would be the fatal blow. It would be like a sharp knife, stabbing into the enemy, and kill the enemy who was restrained by the other two people. They were prepared. Chu Yang's pupils shrank. Such an attack also caused his expression to change. If it were him, he would only be able to dodge. He would not be able to resist at all. Lon Lon, be careful. He was a little worried and shouted loudly. On his side, although he had yet to make a move, Yen Tai Yen and Pan he were already keeping a close eye on him. If he made any strange movements, they would definitely attack violently. At this moment, the parrot didn't say anything else. The combined attack of 3 Life Realm experts was extremely vicious. Facing Life Realm experts, it would only be sending itself to its death if it went up. On the other hand, Shangguan Mei and Hong Niao weren't worried in the slightest. In fact, they even had looks of disdain on their faces. Shangguan Lan's expression didn't change in the face of such a shocking attack. She only coldly glanced at the 3 people. Her jade-like hand gently waved, and the white peony flew to her head. Streaks of white sword chi fell, protecting her within. Chapter 1893. Shua. This sword directly cut open the void, and a pitch-black spatial storm appeared. It was like a giant beast opening its mouth and swallowing fiercely. The attacks of the 3 Life Realm experts were all swallowed by a great suction force. The golden palm, the flying swords that swept over from all directions, and the bloody blood vines that were surrounded by demonic chi were like duckweeds in water. They were all sucked into a whirlpool without the slightest bit of resistance, and were instantly swallowed by the spatial storm. The world suddenly became quiet, and only the 7-colored sword light was left. It was beautiful, but there was no sound, but it was extremely dangerous. It silently slashed horizontally, and then disappeared. However, the 3 people on the 3 sides were all frozen in midair. Their bodies began to convulse, and then blood rushed out from their necks, instantly dyeing them red. It was extremely strange, but also incomparably shocking. Shangguan Lan had only casually slashed out with her sword, and did not hit any of the 3 people. However, all 3 of them were hit by the sword, making it impossible for others to understand the mystery. Am I dead? Am I dead just like that? How did I die? What kind of sword technique is this? The 3 of them were indescribably shocked. They swiped their hands over their wounds and immediately saw that their hands were covered in blood. Then, they strangely saw that their necks and torsos fell straight to the ground, letting out a bang. Am I really dead? In the end, the 3 people were still unable to confirm all of this. They did not even understand whether they were dead or not. All of this was too inconceivable. Unfortunately, no one told them the answer, and they no longer had time to think. They died quickly, and their 3 heads fell to the ground silently. This, Chu Yang was also dumbfounded. He was completely stunned by this sword and was shocked. Until now, he still did not know the mystery of Shangguan Lan's sword technique. My goodness, this divine bird's sister-in-law is so terrifying. The parrot stuck out its tongue. Its intuition told it that this sister-in-law was even more monstrous than Chu Hang. The world was deathly silent. Yen Tai Yen and Pan he watched this scene in a daze. They did not make any sound, nor did they move. It was as if they were petrified. Everything happened too quickly. In the blink of an eye, 3 of their companions died just like that? The 2 of them didn't even know how they died. Fuck! After Chu Yang exclaimed, he couldn't help but sweat. Previously, he knew that there was a big gap between him and Shangguan Lan, but he did not expect the gap to be so big. Not to mention that the 2 of them were not on the same level, they simply did not live in the same dimension. What kind of sword technique is that? It's not too much for a dead person to want to satisfy their curiosity before they die, right? Yen Tai Yen and Pan he spoke calmly after calming down the shock in their hearts. At this moment there was no fear in their hearts. There was only calmness, a deathly calm. The result was already decided. They were definitely going to die, so why should they be afraid? You won't understand even if I tell you. Shangguan Lan's voice was still cold. Your opponent is not me. A glimmer of hope instantly appeared in their lifeless eyes. Are you saying that as long as we can defeat Chu Yang we can leave? How could they dare to say the word wild dog? As for Chu Yang, there was only endless envy and jealousy in their hearts. They were all born as humans. Why did they not meet such a woman, but this wild dog? The answer to this question is already very obvious, isn't it? Chapter 1894. Gentlemen, I'm a henpecked man. My wife's words are more important than the heavens. I'll do whatever she says. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep my job. Shangguanlan rolled her eyes. Nothing good comes out of a dog's mouth. Damned gigolo. Yen Tai-yen and Pan He's hearts burned with jealousy. If they had such a wife, the world would be completely different in front of them. Their lives would also be completely different. Unfortunately, they could only dream about it. Luck and happiness would always belong to others. Chu Yang, you'd better be careful. If you die, it has nothing to do with us. You can only blame yourself for not being strong enough. That's right. With your strength, it's really not enough. In the air, Yen Tai-yen and Pan He were once again rampant due to their jealousy. They were qualified to say that. It was easy for two undead spirit realm cultivators to deal with a LV9 soul amalgamation realm cultivator. Even if Chu Yang was amazing and the Nirvana flame couldn't do anything to him, the undead spirit realm was a completely different realm from the Nirvana realm. After all, this realm had mastered the profound meaning of death. Chu Yang obviously understood what they meant. He smiled faintly and said, "If I die in your hands, you can leave safely." If he couldn't deal with Yen Tai-yen and Pan He, not to mention whether he was worthy of Shangguanlan, it would be impossible for him to solve the discrimination in the eastern wilderness in the East Continent. And he could only think about other things after solving the problem in the East Continent. But when could he solve it? This was definitely an extremely troublesome matter. It wasn't something that could be solved overnight. It made him feel a little gloomy. Let's do it. Chu Yang quickly recovered from his momentary state of mind. As you wish. With a clang, Yen Tai-yen and Pan He both pulled out a scimitar. Two rays of light burst out. In an instant, Chu Yang felt as if his eyeballs were cut in half. Rumble! The scimitars in their hands were like crescent moons, emitting thunderous sounds. Lightning arcs also burst out, constantly flickering on the scimitars. Both of them used sabers, and both of them used lightning-related saber techniques. Chu Yang was a little surprised. He realized that Yen Tai-yen and Pan He were already very familiar with each other. Furthermore, they definitely had great chemistry. The holy disciple who sent them here is really thoughtful. Chu Yang laughed coldly in his heart. Looking at the big picture through a tube, he was almost certain that Jian-san, who had been strangled to death, was familiar with Yen Tai-yen and Pan He. Moreover, the two of them must have cooperated very well, just like the three life realm martial practitioners that Shangguanlan had killed. Boom! Thundercloud gathered in the sky at this moment. Low and deep thunder resounded from it. It seemed to have an inexplicable connection with the scimitars in their hands, causing the lightning glow on the two scimitars to become even brighter and their auras to become even more frightening. The thunder cloud surged and became even thicker. When a bolt of lightning tore through the sky and lit up the sky, Yen Tai-yen and Pan He made their move. Crackle, crackle! Black lightning arcs rushed out from their bodies, accompanied by surging deathly aura. The two didn't conflict because it was Yin lightning which complemented the deathly aura. Dong dong! Yen Tai-yen and Pan He fiercely stepped in the air, causing the space to tremble. Then, they rushed out, closing in on Chu Yang in a half-encirclement. Their bodies were wrapped in lightning, and their speed was extremely fast. It was as if two bolts of lightning were tearing through the void, quickly moving through it. In lightning blade. Chapter 1895. Pan He, on the other hand, swung his saber horizontally. It was also a 1,000-foot-long saber light that went straight for Chu Yang's waist. With Chu Yang as the center, The straight saber light formed across in an instant. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chu Yang was wary of the deathly aura of the dead spirit realm, so he did not choose to face it head-on. He used the chaotic steps of the 5 elements. Coupled with his unique mana, it seemed that the void was in chaos. He was actually going to the left, but he was actually going to the right, and when he was actually going to the back, he was actually going to the left. As he rapidly changed his position, afterimages appeared one after another. Coupled with his unique mana, one Chu Yang was formed with each step. The newly formed Chu Yang was also forming one after another Chu Yang, while using the chaotic steps of the 5 elements. It was extremely chaotic in an instant. It was impossible to tell which one was Chu Yang's real body. It seemed that all of them were Chu Yang's real bodies. The chaotic steps of the 5 elements was a footwork that Chu Yang had not given up on since he came to the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness. He was extremely skilled. When he used it again at this moment, he had already reached the level of perfection. It was already difficult to distinguish, and coupled with his external mana, it made his footwork even more chaotic. It was impossible to figure it out. What footwork is this? How can it make people feel confused? What fast speed! As the 2 saber lights fell, many Chu Yang were destroyed and turned into surging mana. The mana was corroded by the deathly aura, making a sizzling sound. However, there were still many Chu Yang in the air, so Yen Taiyan and Pan he did not know where to attack at this moment. The 2 of them had thought that Chu Yang wouldn't fight them head-on. Instead, they would use tricks to win. So, they had already prepared a countermeasure in their hearts. However, all their calculations had been rendered useless when it came to the real fight. At this moment, they could only attack blindly. Rumble! Low and deep sounds of thunder resounded incessantly in the ears. They were all emitted from the 2 curved sabers. Saber light streaked across the sky, and destroyed one Chu Yang after another. However, more and more Chu Yang were born. In fact, it seemed as if the void was about to be filled up. Brother Goat, that's not an illusion, it's a clone. Shangguan Lan suddenly realized the mystery. Her beautiful eyes were shocked, and she was extremely shocked. Creating a clone with each step, this was simply heaven-defying. Who could do this? Just like how Chu Yang didn't know her swordsmanship, she also didn't know the secrets of Chu Yang's footwork. Miss, is it really a clone? Shangguan Mei had already realized that it wasn't Chu Yang's illusion, but when she heard Shangguan Lan's voice, she still couldn't believe it. Her small mouth was wide open. That void was filled with Chu Yang's clones. How could this be? In the field, Yen Taiyan and Pan he were completely fooled by Chu Yang. They were like 2 headless flies, swinging their scimitars wildly. The advantage they relied on in their high realms couldn't be used at all. It seems that you have no way to crack it, am I right? Suddenly, many Chu Yangs spoke at the same time. Their voices were densely packed, like a huge swarm of bees, making a buzzing sound that made people's heads explode. Since you have no way to crack it, then it's my turn. Many Chu Yangs spoke again. Then, like a flood, they drowned Yen Taiyan with a rumbling sound. At the same time, they all roared, the sound of besieged on all sides. The singing really rang out. How lonely it is to be invincible. Countless singing sounds rang out, and everything became even more chaotic. The void shook violently. Many Chu Yangs punched out, and immediately, many more Chu Yangs appeared. They were really densely packed, like an endless tide. What the hell is this? Chapter 1896. Bang, bang, bang. Chu Yang from all directions drowned Yen Taiyan like a tidal wave. In an instant, Yen Taiyan seemed to be submerged in water. Every part of his body seemed to be attacked. Chu Yang's attacks were like flowing water. Yen Taiyan's entire body was deformed in an instant. It was as if he was being compressed into a point. Blood spurted out from his mouth, and it never stopped spurting out blood. However, at this moment, His eyes burst out with extreme coldness. His deformed face, covered in blood, smiled strangely. Then, something strange happened. Rumble! With a loud sound, it was as if a seal suppressing extreme evil had been opened. The existence of extreme evil rushed out from Yen Tian's body. In an instant, a deathly aura surged out. The stench of decay also burst out, filling the void. In the deathly aura, there were scenes of rotten flesh, yellow corpse water, and countless skeletons. It was as if there was a yellow spring, a huge graveyard. Endless deathly aura swept out. In an instant, it made people feel as if they were in the middle of a rotten corpse, in the kingdom of death. Deathly aura. Yen Tian's ultimate deathly aura, the most terrifying deathly aura, and also the deepest understanding of death. At this moment, such an aura of death erupted from the deepest part of his body. His entire body's muscles also began to rot, emitting a rotten stench. Yellow corpse fluid also began to flow on his body. Even half of his body's flesh and blood mysteriously disappeared, revealing half of his skeleton. It was extremely horrifying. Qi, qi, qi. Numerous Chu Yang were surrounded by the deathly aura. Like ice cubes being poured into boiling water, they were instantly corroded. Rolling white eyes appeared and disappeared. Then, the deathly aura became even more intense. It was as if the death of so many Chu Yang had made the deathly aura even stronger. In just a blink of an eye, the deathly aura swept out. In all directions, all the Chu Yang in the sky were corroded and completely disappeared. Yen Tian's deathly aura was shocking. Not only did he kill so many Chu Yang, he even turned himself into a half-dead, half-alive, half-human, half-ghost state. Kiki! A strange laughter rang out from his throat. It was extremely evil and carried with it a boundless aura of death. When the voice entered their ears, they felt as if the Grim Reaper was touching them, causing their scalps to go numb. Wild dog, so what if you're a monster? So what if you're heaven-defying? In the end, you can't break all the laws of martial arts. You can't overturn the heavens, and you can't overturn the earth. You still have to die, Kiki. With one successful strike, Yen Tian wantonly vented his anger, becoming rampant once again. Especially when Chu Yang had used a heaven-defying divine skill, he was still able to kill Chu Yang. At this moment, his heart was filled with joy, pride, and accomplishment. He was even proud of himself. He had actually killed such an unprecedented genius. These words were absolutely not an exaggeration. That wild dog's skill was absolutely shocking and unparalleled. It had never been seen before in the world. He was so shocked that he was stupefied. He was so scared that his guts were about to explode. Thus, this was definitely something to be proud of. Even if Wild Dog was only at the 9th level of the soul amalgamation realm, who could be like him and kill such a peerless genius? Kiki! Yen Tian's laughter became even louder. Ha ha! Pan He also laughed out loud. His frightened heart had completely calmed down. He looked at Shangguan Lan and said, "Fairy, you won't go back on your words, right?" Kiki! Yen Tian's strange laughter immediately stopped, but his tone was still full of pride. He looked at Shangguan Lan and said, "Fairy, you want to kill us to vent your anger?" Chapter 1897. Do you need it? It was definitely not Shangguan Lan's voice. It seemed to be Wild Dog's voice. Yen Tian and Pan He were horrified. They immediately turned around. Pan He saw Chu Yang's hand blade wrapped in magic power. It was like a heavenly blade. With a light swipe, it cut off Yen Tian's head. During this process, Yen Tian just happened to turn around and saw the grinning Chu Yang behind him. Chu Yang was smiling at him? It was like a dream. Yen Tian could no longer distinguish between reality and illusion, especially when the Chu Yang in front of him was also in the undead soul realm. What the hell is going on? Before this thought could fully form in his mind, he found that his spirit had been directly taken out and absorbed into a pitch-black space. Pan He's lips trembled incessantly. He could no longer speak. Everything in front of him had turned his mind into a mess. How could such a thing happen? What was the reason behind it? Wild Dog was only in the 9th layer of the soul fusion realm. How could it suddenly have the cultivation of the undead soul realm? Don't be surprised. This is only Chu Hang's first fancy way of playing. The parrot's voice suddenly sounded. Pan He immediately looked over, as if he had met his savior. Even if it was not his savior, it seemed to be able to answer his questions. Also, the parrot emphasized, you are definitely not the first to receive such treatment. This divine bird is very honored to be the first to experience Chu Hang's fancy way of playing. Thinking of this matter, the parrot was depressed. It even found that Chu Hang was not completely clear about its fancy way of playing. It was only surprised by the latter, but not the former. However, in its opinion, the former and the latter were not much different. The difference was that the former was very powerful at the beginning, but it weakened again and again. The latter was not very weak at the beginning, but like a rolling snowball, it became stronger and stronger until it reached the limit. The limit of both methods was the undead spirit realm. Chu Yang, who had killed Yen Taiyan Chu Yang, was the limit of the first method. This Chu Yang was only at the undead spirit realm. You still haven't told me how he did it? Pan He didn't hear what he wanted to hear. Instead, he asked the parrot. Tisk, I'll tell you. Go die with your eyes wide open. The parrot would rather have a vicious mouth than admit its ignorance. It couldn't fucking understand either. It was also confused. What the fuck could it say? The fact that Chu Yang, who was at the undead spirit realm, had suddenly disappeared shocked Yen Taiyan once more. Before he could figure out what was going on, another change had occurred. Their time of existence is indeed very short. Chu Yang's sigh came from the void, and his figure also appeared from the void. Not far behind Pan He punched towards Pan He, and immediately, another Chu Yang burst out. This Chu Yang's cultivation was very weak, only at the first level of the primitive martial realm, just like Chu Yang, who had just started learning martial arts. However, when Chu Yang, who had just started learning martial arts, punched out, another Chu Yang appeared, and his cultivation also became at the second level of the primitive martial realm. After that, Chu Yang continued to burst out, and his cultivation also continued to increase. In the end, Chu Yang, who was at the undead soul realm, appeared once again. Is this the second fancy way of playing? It is indeed different from the first method. The former gradually weakened, while the latter gradually strengthened. Pan He did not make a move the entire time, as if he was witnessing a miracle. You can go on your way. Chu Yang, who was at the undead soul realm, made his move. He raised his hand and directly smashed down on Pan He. Although Pan He tried his best to resist, he was as weak as an ant in front of Chu Yang, who was at the undead soul realm. He was directly slapped to death. This is the wild dog of the undead soul realm. It's actually so terrifying. It's comparable to a saint. When Pan He was about to die, he realized that the difference between the undead soul realm and his was so great that he could not imagine it. No, it's not comparable to a saint. It's even stronger than a saint. Chapter 1898. A little chicken ribs and not of much use? After Chu Yang had a deeper understanding of his inner and outer mana, he was not very satisfied. The Chu Yang formed by his mana existed for too short a time. What else do you want? It was Shangguan Mei's voice. Shangguan Mei's words came as a surprise, but she could not hold it in. Chu Yang was too much. She also spoke out the thoughts of Shangguan Lan, the red bird, and the parrot. As the saying goes, a man whose heart is not content is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. For them, Chu Yang's performance was too vivid. I want you to worship me, I want you to scream because of me, I want you to be my fangirl. Chu Yang teased Shangguan Mei. The beauty by my wife's side, such a lofty dream, I have not yet achieved, how can I give up? Shangguan Mei's face inexplicably turned red. She was indeed shocked, but not to the extent that Chu Yang said, because she was not stupid. Chu Hang, is it okay for you to do this in front of sister-in-law? The parrot said, very dissatisfied. King Chu already had the other half that was envied by the entire world. It still didn't know where the other half of a majestic divine bird was, but King Chu was going to go one step further, so wouldn't it fall even further behind? This must be stopped with all its might. Tisk! Chu Yang was full of disdain, and immediately smiled at Shangguan Lan. I'm reminding Lan Lan, her husband is not bad, you have to keep a close eye on him, or else one day her good husband will leave her. He then pondered whether his words were accurate, and then nodded with certainty. Yes, that's it, I am indeed a genius, wah. Before Chu Yang could laugh wildly, a beautiful figure flashed in his eyes, and in the midst of a fragrance, he felt a smooth little hand pinching his ear and pulling it fiercely. Ah! He screamed loudly and hurriedly said, Lan Lan, be gentle, my ear is going to be pinched off. Shangguan Lan's slender hand suddenly exerted more force, but she still couldn't help but blush. She had yet to marry Chu Yang, but she and Chu Yang seemed to have been married for a long time. After all, which fiancé could exercise such power at this age? Lan Lan, your husband is someone who cares about his reputation in public. Can you teach me a lesson when we get home? I will definitely be beaten and scolded for 7 days and 7 nights, but I definitely won't dare to do it for 3 days and 3 nights. Shangguan Lan was fine at the beginning, but when she heard Chu Yang's crazy words at the end, she was ashamed and angry and exerted more strength. Ha ha ha! The parrot saw that Chu Yang had suffered a setback, and couldn't stop laughing. He stood to the side and encouraged, sister-in-law, use a bit more strength and pinch his ear out. It'll grow back anyway. Lan Lan, my barbecue skills are top-notch. I have some parrot wings. Do you want some? Little sheep, I want to eat it. The red bird immediately said. The parrot was furious and fought with the red bird again. Chu Yang and Shangguan Lan, the parrot and the red bird. Shangguan Mei found that she had become a lonely person. No one cared about her, no one loved her, and no one cared about her. She felt sad. After fighting for a while, Chu Yang suddenly said to Shangguan Lan, Lan Lan, it seems that we have to separate from now on for the 6 Academies Alliance competition. Shangguan Lan was slightly stunned. Although she didn't speak, who didn't know how she felt? Shangguan Mei couldn't help but say angrily, Chu Hang, are you still worried that my lady will get you into trouble? Chu Yang smiled and said proudly, I need to get through this by myself. He didn't say the following words. If he couldn't deal with the current situation, how could he deal with Shangguan Lan's admirers in the future? How could he face more complicated and difficult situations? In addition, Shangguan Lan's intervention could save his elder brother Chu Fei. Chu Yang felt that there were only advantages and no disadvantages. Because of Shangguan Lan, the opponents would be more cautious, and the flaws would be smaller. Maybe because they were afraid of Shangguan Lan, they would directly kill his elder brother, erase everything, and completely bury everything. Chapter 1899. If two people loved each other for a long time, they wouldn't be together all the time. Separation was just for better reunion. Shangguan Lan watched Chu Yang walk away. His figure gradually blurred in her sight until it finally disappeared. Her eyes were blurred with reluctance and relief. The man she liked was not only motivated but also able to face difficulties. Xiao Mei, send someone to investigate this matter clearly. How could Shangguan Lan be indifferent? Yes, miss. Shangguan Mei said, I will tell them. They will not give themselves away. Shangguan Lan nodded and then said to the parrot, Little bitch, from now on, you think of a way to pass the message to him without him noticing. The parrot was also left behind. When it heard this, it shook its head and said, "Sister-in-law, this is an impossible task." It knew Chu Yang well, and Chu Yang also knew it well. When it stuck out its butt, Chu Yang knew what it was going to say. In addition, Chu Yang was very cunning in its opinion, but he was definitely not stupid. It was impossible to hide it from him. If it was easy, why would I need a stupid parrot? The red bird directly scolded, "You are a bitch all day long and do shameless things. Other than that, you don't even know how to fart." The parrot sighed. A parrot is bullied by a female. It's really sad, especially an ugly female. "I will fight with you." The red bird immediately fought with the parrot again. The two birds made a scene and slightly diluted Shangguanlan's sadness. On the other hand, after Chu Yang left, he directly used the celestial demon walking technique to change his appearance. He seemed to have stepped into a familiar rhythm. Now, the most important thing for him was to save his brother, Chu Fei. In order to save his brother, of course, he had to know who caught his brother and where he was imprisoned. There were not many clues. Some might not be considered clues, but there were only a few clues in total. He could follow them. The first was Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. He had to find out who had ordered them, and then follow the clues to find the enemy in the dark. The possibility of this was not high. It would take a lot of time and effort to do it, and the results would be low. It was very likely that it would be a futile effort. The second was Zhang Jian. At that time, Zhang Jian came out to stop Feng Polong, saying that he owed someone a favor so he could dig deeper. However, although Chu Yang had only seen Zhang Jian once, he had a deep understanding of his character. This kind of person was very difficult to deal with, and it was even more difficult to get information from them. The most important reason was that even if Chu Yang learned about a certain person from Zhang Jian, this person would not be very clear about everything and would not be deeply involved. The third was the information that the Ice Kuan had obtained from his investigation. The Silver Wolf was a descendant of the Star Lord and had a blood feud with the Star Academy. He could definitely start from the Star Academy. Of course, there were others, but at present only these three were slightly more reliable. It's a pity that I couldn't kill Hu Wenguang and the others back then and take their souls. At that time, under the watchful eyes of everyone, although Chu Yang forced the 6 old men from the inspection team to kneel, he still could not kill them and completely broke the rules. From Yen Taiyan and Pan He, Chu Yang didn't get much information. He only knew that the 6 of them were sent by Yang Santai, the holy disciple of the Myriad Elephant Academy, and Chen Dingkuan, the holy disciple of the Star Academy. Many other holy disciples had already met, and they all gave orders to kill him. Chapter 1900. Chu Yang gave up on the first 2 clues and chose to start from the Star Do Academy. He planned to kill a few important figures in the Star Do Academy and retrieve their souls before gaining insight into the recent happenings in the Star Do Academy. He began to gather information about the Star Do Academy. This wasn't troublesome, and he soon heard the name, Nangong Xing. Nangong Xing, the new star child of the Star Do Academy. I wonder how this Nangong Xing compares to Beichen Xing? Chu Yang immediately locked onto Nangong Xing. As for whether he would kill Nangong Xing, that would depend on Nangong Xing's attitude. The Ice Kuan agreed with Chu Yang's approach. Chu Yang had concealed his identity, and his enemies didn't know where he was. If he cut in from a completely different angle, there might be unexpected result. Swish, swish, swish. Chu Yang flew through the middle sky mountain range, searching for traces of the people from the Star Do Academy. Naturally, his main target was Nangong Xing. Master, is the Myriad Courtyard possible? The Ice Kuan suddenly spoke during this process. The Myriad Courtyard's child of all creation was also killed by Master. Perhaps the Myriad Courtyard wants to lure Master into a fierce battle with the Star Do Academy. At the very least, they won't suffer any losses. The Myriad Courtyard. Li Shengsan. Chu Yang couldn't help but nod when he heard this. Such a possibility existed. Therefore, he paid extra attention while searching for Nangong Xing's whereabouts. He immediately learned about the myriad courtyard's new child of all creation, Li Chou. However, his first target was still Nangong Xing, followed by Li Chou. Without any warning, an extremely mournful scream pierced through the sky in the Middle Sky mountain range. It went straight into Chu Yang's eardrums. It seemed that someone had encountered a vicious attack, and had let out a blood-curdling scream before dying. From the sound, Chu Yang felt that it shouldn't be too far away from him. At this moment, he was in a place where the students of the 6 great academies were more concentrated. This made it easier for him to gather information. He was naturally curious, but he wasn't in the mood to pay attention to such things. Therefore, he didn't chat, but his pupils involuntarily shrank when he heard the discussions. Did you hear? The Heavenly Sword Academy's holy disciple, Overlord Sword, was just assassinated. Could that shrill scream be what Overlord Sword let out before he died? That's right, it's Overlord Sword. I just don't know who killed him. Overlord Sword was a holy disciple of the Heavenly Sword Academy. Chu Yang was extremely unfamiliar with this name. He had never heard of it before. However, the death of a holy disciple was definitely a huge matter. Not to mention other things, the Heavenly Sword Academy would definitely not let this matter rest. Previously, Chu Yang had also planned to assassinate the geniuses of the 6 great academies and thoroughly stir up this pool of water. However, at this moment, when such a thing happened, his heart skipped a beat for no reason. It can't be. Could it be that my previous thoughts were also secretly hoped for? He angrily attacked the inspection team, causing the Thunder Calamity, his trump card, to be known by everyone. He became a thorn in the side of the Saints. If he had carried out the assassination earlier, the current situation would have been even more chaotic. Is that possible? Bing Kun said in a serious voice. I'm afraid their goal is not simple. It seems that they are targeting not only you, but also others. Chu Yang was sweating profusely. The enemy's scheme in the dark had terrified him. Fortunately, he didn't make a move in the end. Otherwise, he would have been completely used as a tool. Overlord Sword's sword technique is extremely overbearing. His cultivation is already at the half-saint level. Who can assassinate him? When he heard this, Chu Yang was startled again, but he immediately felt relieved. Since he was a holy disciple, it wasn't strange for him to have a half-saint level cultivation. He should have thought of this long ago. In that case. Chapter 1901. Chu Yang instantly heard the sound of people sucking in cold air. He himself also sucked in cold air. Not to mention a saint, just these 2 words gave him too much pressure. I don't think it's a saint. How can a saint do such a thing? It should be a saint who has a grudge against Overlord Sword. In this competition, he seized the opportunity to assassinate Overlord Sword. How can an ordinary saint be Overlord Sword's opponent? You should know that the Heaven Sword Academy is best at attacking, and Overlord Sword is the best of the best. There was once a rumor that Overlord Sword was the first saint of the 6 great academies. That's just a rumor. If there's a saint, it can only be Qianzi from the Sky Academy. Someone immediately said, You should still remember what happened about a year ago, right? Qianzi forcibly plundered the origins of various multidimensional worlds and angered the 6 great academies. They even besieged him, but in the end, he still escaped. Qianzi. Chu Yang had met this person when he was in the eastern wilderness, and even killed one of his spiritual imprints. In the Sky Academy, he had also heard the name Qianzi many times. Gongsun Long had a close relationship with Qianzi. Therefore, he was very familiar with this name, but he still didn't know much about this person, although he had already known what everyone had just said. After that, Chu Yang suddenly found that his focus had been completely shifted. He was not only thinking about Qianzi, but also about how to deal with Gongsun Long. He almost forgot about saving his elder brother. If assassinating Overlord Sword is just a means for some people to divert attention, then these people really have ulterior motives. I'm afraid the 6 Great Academies' joint competition this time is too complicated. Chu Yang thought of many more things, and for a moment, he only felt that countless thoughts were rushing to his face and drowning him. He thought about all kinds of things and grasped a key point: a saint-level holy fetus. A holy fetus might be the essence of many things, and he was also involved in it because of a holy fetus. However, he still had to thank this saint-level saint fetus. Otherwise, his opponent would have used his big brother to set up an even more vicious trap. Chu Yang quickly focused on how to save his elder brother. He pondered over the same question repeatedly. If I kill Nangong Xing, the situation will be even more turbulent. At that time, the upper echelons of the 6 Great Academies will be fully involved. He was extremely worried. Now that the upper echelons of the 6 Great Academies had gotten involved, he was afraid that he would be easily found out. Not to mention saving his elder brother, he would have a hard time even protecting himself. Damn it! He couldn't help but curse in his heart. He had to rack his brain cells to deduce how the situation would develop in the future. Pulling one hair would affect the whole situation, so he had no choice but to be cautious. The Heavenly Sword Academy is furious. I heard that the principal of the Heavenly Sword Academy is furious. He said that he will definitely find the culprit or else he won't let this matter rest. That's not all. I heard that the leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy, as well as those old fogies who usually don't care about worldly affairs, have already made their move. Overlord Sword seems to be the son of the Sky Sword Academy's leader. Oh my god, if that's the case, wouldn't the world be turned upside down this time? Chu Yang was already in a heavy mood, and after hearing this, he felt even worse. As expected, the more the matter blew up, the more people involved became more and more shocking. No matter what, the leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy had the cultivation of a saint. The Academy Masters of the 6 Great Academies weren't very high in cultivation, and none of them were saints. Therefore, if the Academy Masters of the 6 Great Academies were furious, Chu Yang wouldn't be very worried. However, if the leader appeared, then it would be completely different. Overall, Chu Yang felt that this wouldn't help him save his elder brother. Instead, it would be a great hindrance. What should I do? Chapter 1902. Zhang Jian. Chu Yang had no choice but to give up his original plan. At this moment, whether it was Nangong Xing or Li Chou, they could not move. As for choosing Zhang Jian as a breakthrough point, it was because Hu Wenguang, Wang Feiming, and the others were too weak. It would be strenuous for them to search one by one, and it would be extremely easy for the clues to be cut off. All my efforts have been in vain. Everything Chu Yang had done before had become useless. Everything had to start from the beginning, and this time, he was looking for Zhang Jian. Zhang Jian, don't wait for me to find him. He'll already be a corpse. It was originally a self-mockery, but after saying it, why did Chu Yang feel that such a thing would happen so easily? This feeling was really terrible. Forget it, let's go first. Chu Yang got rid of his messy thoughts, and was about to launch his figure and fly away. But then, he heard a muffled sound. It seemed that something had fallen from the sky. Boom. Then, he heard a commotion in the crowd, and a commotion broke out. Someone's dead, someone's dead. Who's this? Did he fall from the sky and die? Is that possible? This person's cultivation is extraordinary. He's at least at the Nirvana realm. How could a Nirvana realm cultivator fall from the sky? The only thing that could happen to him is the tragic earth. Chu Yang was eventually attracted by it. His eyes unconsciously looked over. But he didn't move. Instead, a cry of surprise rang out again. "Look, this person seems to have left a message on his body." "Where?" "It's on his neck." In just a short moment, someone in the crowd cursed. "Who's so arrogant to leave a message after killing someone? Let's guess how this person died. This murderer is really arrogant. He clearly threw the corpse down for us to see." "That's right. This area has the most people from the 6 great academies. The murderer must know." "In that case, isn't the murderer from the 6 great academies?" He was indeed a little arrogant to flaunt his prowess after killing someone. Chu Yang walked over and squeezed into the crowd. Looking at the corpse on the ground, he indeed saw a line of small words on the corpse's neck. It was full of provocation. "Everyone from the 6 great academies, guess how he died?" He took another look and found that the person who was killed was not wearing the uniform of the 6 great academies. He was slightly puzzled. Is this person not a student of the 6 great academies, but another warrior from the East Continent? In the Middle Sky mountain range, other than the students of the 6 great universities, there were many martial artists from the East Continent, and even martial artists from other continents. More and more people gathered. Curiosity was human nature. Because of this, among the crowd, not only did some people with good eyesight come, some people even vaguely recognized the identity of the person who had been killed. "I feel like I know this person. He seems to be very powerful. I also have some impression of it. I seem to have seen it somewhere before. There is demonic chi on his body. He is not a demonic cultivator. He should be from the Heavenly Demon Academy. Bone Devil Son." Suddenly, in the midst of the clamor, a cry of surprise cut through the clamor and pierced into everyone's ears. "Bone Devil Son?" Chu Yang looked at the person and found that he was a student of the Heavenly Demon Academy. From his expression, this Bone Devil Son was a very famous figure in the Heavenly Demon Academy. Chapter 1903. Without a doubt, this Bone Demon Child is a well-known figure in the 6 great academies. He is definitely extraordinary. Chu Yang was instantly certain, but his heart sank. This Bone Demon Child can't be a heavenly disciple as well, right? If Bone Demon Child was also a heavenly disciple, then 2 famous heavenly disciples from the 6 great academies had died in a short period of time. This meant that this matter would become even more serious. #YinYin%%#. Chu Yang directly activated the 3-character scripture. Fortunately, he had given up on attacking Nangong Xing earlier. Otherwise, he would have been placed on top of a volcano. The crowd was silent for a long time as he quietly waited. After a while, the crowd finally exclaimed in shock. "Bone Demon Child, it's actually Bone Demon Child from the Heavenly Demon Institute. Oh my God, Bone Demon Child was also killed. Another heavenly disciple has died. Is this the rhythm of a great change?" Chu Yang finally got his answer. His eyes slightly narrowed. This Bone Demon Child was indeed a heavenly disciple. Who is crazy to actually use a heavenly disciple as an assassination target? The assassin was so crazy and powerful that many people instantly shuddered. Heavenly disciples were extremely powerful existences in the 6 great academies. Some were even stronger than the dean of the 6 great academies. All of them were extraordinary characters. For example, the 2 heavenly disciples who were killed. Overlord Jian from the Heavenly Sword Institute and Bone Demon Child from the Heavenly Demon Institute were such characters. The death of such characters was equivalent to the dean of the 6 great academies being killed. Moreover, 2 of them had died. The grand competition of the 6 great academies had been held countless times, but such a thing had never happened before. No one had ever thought that the heavenly disciples of the 6 great academies, who were existences at the top of the pyramid, would become assassination targets and inexplicably die in the competition. Everyone present couldn't help but feel their hearts palpitate. Chu Yang could understand this feeling. It was as if an important character of a country had died. The series of reactions would be unimaginable, and the impact would be even more immeasurable. Perhaps a war would break out. Nothing could be worse than this. His mood also became more and more gloomy. At this time, if there was still someone who didn't know any better and caused trouble and jumped up and down, it would definitely arouse the anger of the crowd, and they would be directly slapped to death. Which bastard is it that dares to cause trouble at this juncture? You better not let yours truly find out. Otherwise, yours truly will definitely kill you. Chu Yang hated the villain to the core. Now that things had developed like this, his hands and feet were bound. It would be difficult for him to make any big moves, and it would be even more difficult for him to save his brother. The demon Bone Child has sword chi on him. It's incomparably sharp. More importantly, it's extremely domineering. Could it be someone from the Sky Sword Academy? Are you talking about Overlord Sword? But Overlord Sword is already dead? Even though the Overlord Sword is dead, it doesn't mean that there isn't anyone in the Heavenly Sword Academy who knows the Overlord Sword technique. Hearing this, Chu Yang faintly felt that this was the rhythm of a conflict between the Heavenly Sword Academy and the Heavenly Demon Academy. If a huge conflict were to erupt between the two academies, things would truly get out of hand. If it wasn't for Big Brother Chu Fei, he would have been secretly happy to hear this. After all, the 6 great academies of the Eastern Continent were the 6 great powers of the Eastern Continent. If their strength was weakened, it would be much easier for him to suppress the Eastern Continent. Kun, why don't I just fish in troubled waters and get involved? Chu Yang suddenly had this thought. If he made a move on Nangong Xing, the Star Do Academy would definitely be extremely sensitive at this time. It was indeed dangerous, but there were also pros and cons. The Ice Koan didn't immediately reply. After a moment of silence it said, "Master, don't you feel that you've already gotten involved? Or rather, even if the 6 great academies find the culprit, wouldn't they bring you along?" The Ice Koan was naturally referring to Chu Yang's identity as Eastern Wilderness 002. Chapter 1904. Chu Yang's identity as Eastern Wilderness 002 had tormented and humiliated the 6 great academies in the 7 Wheels Demon Realm, so it wasn't surprising that they were involved. In the end, the 6 great academies might even involve the entire Eastern Wilderness. If the 6 great academies started a war with the Eastern Wilderness and killed or enslaved all the people in the Eastern Wilderness in the East Continent, the people in the Eastern Wilderness would be even more miserable. I heard that Domineering Sword and Bone Demon Sun have a huge grudge against each other. They do have a grudge against each other and have fought to the death several times. However, both of them were seriously injured every time, and neither of them could kill each other. Then could it be, although this person didn't finish his sentence, everyone already understood what he meant. Chu Yang also knew very well that the Sky Sword Academy might think that Bone Demon Sun had killed Domineering Sword, so they killed Bone Demon Sun to avenge Domineering Sword and even provoked the Sky Demon Academy. Such a provocation was actually tantamount to a silent declaration of war. Maybe I'll have to bear the crime of causing the internal strife of the 6 great academies and trying to subvert the East Continent? Chu Yang couldn't help but sneer in his heart. At the same time, he felt cold all over. If all his guesses were true, the consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, he planned to leave to find a place to reconsider and deal with everything that might happen. Preparedness meant success, and unpreparedness meant failure. Even if it was just a guess, and even if Chu Yang's worries were groundless, he had to be on guard. The people in the Eastern Wilderness had pinned many hopes on him. Even if he couldn't fulfill the dreams of the people in the Eastern Wilderness, he couldn't let them die because of him. He couldn't watch the people in the Eastern Wilderness, who were already in deep trouble, become even more miserable. Such a thing can't happen. Chu Yang's eyes shone with a cold light, but they were also filled with determination. 7-star son of the Sky Academy is dead. Such exclamations came from afar, causing Chu Yang to stop in his tracks. 7-star son of the Sky Academy was beheaded and hung on a tree. He died with his eyes wide open. The voices were getting closer and closer. The people coming from afar were also getting closer and closer. Many people couldn't help but go forward to greet them. Is what you said true? The Saint of the Sky Academy, 7-star child, is also dead. He was even beheaded and his head was hung on a tree. He died with his eyes wide open. Don't talk nonsense. 2 saints have already died. If another one dies, who knows what will happen? Isn't that so? I'm feeling a little uneasy. I feel like I could be killed at any time. I wonder when I'll die. How would I dare to talk about such things? The man shouted, If 7-star child isn't dead, not to mention you, even 7-star child won't spare me. Really? If you don't believe me, go and see for yourself. 7-star child's head is still hanging on the tree. With a loud bang, the crowd exploded. Many people immediately rushed over. Chu Yang's mind was also blank. Subconsciously, he couldn't help but follow the crowd. When he arrived, he saw 7-star child's head hanging on a tree. 7-star child's eyes were wide open and did not close even when he died. Chu Yang recognized 7-star child. When the students of the Sky Academy gathered, 7-star child had appeared. At that time, everyone had been watching, so how could he not recognize him? 3 saints had died, but they didn't know the murderer at all. However, the matter didn't stop there. Instead, it became more and more intense. News of the deaths of saints kept coming. Yang Santai, the saint of the Nature Academy, and Chen Dingkuan, the saint of the Stars Academy, were stripped naked and hung on trees. Chapter 1905. After Yang Santai and Chen Dingkuan were killed, they were stripped naked and hung up to dry. The accusation was directed at Chu Yang. It was a false accusation, but it was easy to refute. Chu Yang had always been arrogant. He dared to do what others didn't dare to do. He had always been unconventional and often did the opposite, so it was easy to convince him. Things were going in the worst direction. Chu Yang couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. The other party was vicious, ruthless, and merciless. Not only did they want to kill his big brother, they also wanted to kill him. They also wanted to kill everyone in the Eastern Wasteland. You'd better not let me know who you are. Chu Yang gritted his teeth. The most troublesome thing at present was that the other party was in the dark. He didn't know who the enemy was at all. He couldn't do anything at all. Do you think it's a wild dog from the Sky Academy? The discussion in the crowd entered Chu Yang's ears, and the haze in his heart became heavier. He couldn't help but think to himself, sure enough, it's a logical association. I've wanted to say this for a long time. This is a wild dog. I recently inquired about it. He was stripped naked and hung up to dry. Only he could do such a wicked thing. I've also heard about it. The people of the Sky Academy can't feel it more deeply. Just because someone said that sentence, who knew how many people in the crowd followed suit, and this trend became more and more intense, almost becoming a reality. What a big scapegoat! Chu Yang was so aggrieved that he almost suffocated as if he was pressed in someone's hand. He couldn't do anything. He was played in the palm of the other party's hand. Anger rose in his heart, like the magma in a volcano that was about to erupt. It could be said that the bastard in the dark this time was the person he hated the most in his life. According to what you said, the wild dog is the murderer. He is the one who assassinated Bone Demon Sun, Overlord Sword, 7 Stars, and others. But is this possible? After all, there were people in the crowd who disagreed. At this time, they began to speak out. They weren't standing on Chu Yang's side, but on the side of their own logic. Aren't you guys overestimating that wild dog? Both Overlord Sword and Bone Demon Sun are half-saints. I heard that Wild Dog is only at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm. A 9th level Soul Fusion realm cultivator killing a half-saint? Are you kidding me? So what if that Wild Dog is extraordinary? It can kill a demi-saint at such a low level. Do you think it's normal to have a saint with you? Half-sage, half-sage. What is a half-sage? He's half a saint. You guys are pushing all the blame on Wild Dog. The real culprit is probably laughing his head off. The clamoring crowd instantly quieted down. This was too unreasonable. How could a 9th layer soul amalgamation realm kill a half-step saint? There was a saying, below the saint all are ants. This sentence fully explained the status of a saint. A half-step saint was a half-step saint. In front of them, life and death realm cultivators were ants, not to mention a mere 9th layer soul fusion realm cultivator. A 9th layer soul fusion realm cultivator killing a half-step saint. People who could say this were either crazy or idiot. Who would dare to say such words? Such a statement was simply blasphemy to a saint. Chapter 1906. They were obviously trying to flatter him and had ulterior motives. When Chu Yang heard this, he immediately stared at this person in secret because this person was very likely sent by the bastard in the dark. A 9th level soul amalgamation realm cultivator killing a half-saint. If it was anyone else, I would definitely scoff. But if it's that Chu Yang, I believe it. Another person sneered, "Everyone, I'll give you a kind reminder. It's best if you don't call him a wild dog. Otherwise, you won't even know how you're going to die." This brother is right. Such a peerless figure can't be humiliated. You'd better take care of yourselves or it'll be too late for regrets. When the person saw that no one believed him, he continued, "Look at you guys, you think I'm joking, right? Then I'll tell you something else. The myriad courtyards Yang Santai and the star courtyards Chindinkuen sent 3 life realm and 3 death realm cultivators to kill Chu Yang. After a pause, he sneered and said to everyone, "Guess what happened in the end?" He had his eyes on everyone who came out to flatter Chu Yang. Especially this person in front of him, who actually knew such a thing. If someone said that this person wasn't sent by the bastard in the dark, he wouldn't believe it. Very good. Chu Yang was excited. It was really like wearing out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. This time, he didn't have to worry about not knowing where to start. What happened in the end? Tell us. That's right, why are you speaking in riddles? This person was purposely whetting everyone's appetite. When it was about time, he said, "It's not that I want to speak in riddles, but if I say it out loud, I'm afraid I'll be ridiculed for nothing." You're not making it up, are you? Making it up? His expression was full of ridicule. This matter won't be hidden for long, don't worry. Once this matter is exposed, you'll know whether I'm making it up or not. I've also heard about this matter. A supporting actor came out and said, "When I first heard about it, I thought it was some idiot who said crazy things. Now it seems like it's true." After saying that, he exclaimed again and again, "This Chu Yang is really like what he said, unprecedented and unsurpassable. Yet, there is actually such a person in the world who can jump out of all kinds of restrictions and trample all the truths we know under his feet." The two of them echoed each other and aroused everyone's curiosity. Many people were eager to know everything. They said anxiously, "What's the result? I promise I won't laugh." That's right, that's right. We promise that we won't laugh at you. Are you two trying to offend all of us? The two of them immediately said, "Everyone, actually, even if we don't say anything, don't you already know the result? It's just that you don't want to believe it. Even if we say it, what's the point? Are you saying that Chu Yang killed 3 life realm experts and 3 death realm experts?" When the person who spoke finished speaking, he immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt cold from head to toe and couldn't help but shiver. Is that possible? A 9th-level soul fusion realm expert killing a death realm expert is already heaven-defying and completely unimaginable. Not to mention killing 3 death realm experts and 3 life realm experts. Why do I feel like I'm listening to a story? Chapter 1907. Many people couldn't believe it, and were doubtful. However, Chu Yang wasn't happy at all when he heard this. The other party was prepared, and it was easy for him to refute such doubts. Listen to stories? Fantasy stories? The 2 people from before had even more mocking expressions and then said, "Did you see that? Do you know why we didn't say anything just now? It's not that we don't want to say it, but some people actually think that Chu Yang is an ordinary genius, an ordinary monster." Ridiculous. The other person said, "That Chu Qian is at an unprecedented level, do you think it's a joke? Not to mention 3 life realm and 3 death realm experts, so what if there are more? I can tell you clearly, it's all useless." After a pause, he continued, "Let's not talk about other things. As long as that Chu Yang triggers the lightning tribulation, no matter if you're at the life realm or the death realm, you'll all die. There's no suspense." Without waiting for anyone to refute, they continued, "Are you going to say that such a lightning tribulation must be world-shaking? If it happened, why didn't you notice it? Don't misunderstand, I'm just telling you that if that Chu Yang wants to kill someone at the life realm or the death realm, he has plenty of methods. Triggering the lightning tribulation is just one of his methods." Finally, they said again, "I'll remind you one last time, that Chu Yang can completely jump out of the entire martial way system. Don't compare those geniuses and monsters of the past to him. They're nothing in front of that Chu Yang." Chu Yang was pushed to an unprecedented height by these 2 people. Since ancient times, there had never been a person like him. The ice lolly agreed with this point of view. However, Chu Yang wanted nothing more than to immediately kill these 2 things. He was really too angry. The 2 people behind didn't say anything else. After a short silence, the crowd couldn't help but whisper to each other and discuss. Is it possible? Is there really such a person in this world, who is completely unrestrained by the laws of martial way? Who knows, but if there is such a person, then nothing is impossible. Such a person is unimaginable. There are innate saints in this world. Why can't there be such a person? The only thing we can't be sure of is whether Chu Yang is such a person or not. The situation was not right. Chu Yang did not say anything because it was useless. On the contrary, the more he refuted, the more things he refuted. For example, if he asked why Chu Yang wanted to assassinate those saints, what was his motive and purpose? Chu Yang was sure, but someone immediately refuted him. In order to save his brother, Chu Yang had to get the doppelganger divine fruit and the divine fetus. The saint was the biggest obstacle, so naturally, he had to find a way to kill the saint. Now, he completely understood why that bastard had told him in front of everyone that there was only one way to save his big brother, and that was to exchange the doppelganger divine fruit and the saint embryo for the doppelganger divine fruit. The other party had already planned everything meticulously, one step after another, every step meticulously planned. Perhaps there was a big flaw in it, but Chu Yang had not found it, at least so far. This bunch of bastards dug a hole early on. They are really scheming. Chu Yang's anger had calmed down. Such an enemy could not tolerate anything. If he was still disturbed by anger, he would be defeated even more miserably. It was very likely that his irrationality in a moment would be irreparable, and he would make a big mistake. As for the other party's scapegoat for him, he would definitely take the blame. Chapter 1908. The crowd began to disperse. The people that Chu Yang was staring at also began to leave, but in completely different directions. Chu Yang used his avatars, the heavenly soul world avatars, and the gods' world avatars to choose the 5 most suspicious people and quietly followed behind them. He thought very well that he could find someone more important through these 5 people. But he never thought that not long after he followed these 5 people, their bodies convulsed, black smoke came out from their 7 orifices, and black blood flowed out from the corners of their mouths. All of them fell to the ground and died instantly. Poison, strong poison, an extremely strong poison. Only an extremely strong poison would act so violently. With a whoosh, Chu Yang flew out from the darkness. When the people who fell to the ground saw him, they couldn't help but sneer. Are you satisfied with this result? How is it? The clues are cut off again. Do you feel good? Do you feel despair? This is just the beginning. The best part is yet to come. Before the 5 of them died, each of them said a harsh sentence to Chu Yang. Obviously, it wasn't their intention. Someone had already told them to do so. This was the enemy's silent provocation to Chu Yang. At this moment, he wasn't angry. The miserable state of the 5 people before they died appeared in his mind. Listening to such provocative words, his expression became calmer. There was no trace of anger. He was extremely calm. It was as if all his emotions had been erased. There was no 7 emotions and 6 desires left. All that was left was rationality. Maybe the enemy's actions weren't as simple as provocation. The main purpose was to enrage him. Anger could only destroy and destroy. It left a person with pitiful intelligence. In such a state, no matter if it was Chu Yang or anyone else, they would only make mistakes. Chu Yang couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Human lives are like grass. The enemy is ruthless enough. This was just a judgment, a rational judgment. Chu Yang almost didn't have any emotions mixed in it. Bing Kun nodded and said, "They are indeed ruthless people. They will do anything to achieve their goals." Such a conclusion was useless. There were many vicious and merciless people in the world who would do anything to achieve their goals. Chu Yang was once again at the same spot without any progress, but he was not impatient. Impatience and anger are sins, self-torture, self-punishment. Master, now that we can prove that those holy disciples were all killed by the enemy, why don't you try to start from the deaths of the holy disciples? Chu Yang thought for a moment and said, Elder Kun, do you know how to investigate cases? In the past, Chu Yang had always called the ice Kun Kun as Kun Kun. However, he had changed such an obviously emotional term to Elder Kun. Elder Kun naturally had some feelings. At least it proved that Chu Yang respected the ice Kun, but it was not as strong as the 2 words Kun. When Chu Yang realized this, a bitter smile suddenly appeared on his face. As the saying goes, going too far is as bad as falling short. He had gone too far. He naturally needed to be rational and patient, but this was not his best state. In his best state, he should be relaxed and happy. Master, this old servant is really not good at this. Kun Kun, if you don't know how to do it, then why are you still talking about it? Chu Yang's tone and expression returned to normal, which stunned the ice Kun again. If the previous Chu Yang made people feel oppressed, made people cautious, and made people feel fear from the bottom of their hearts, then that was definitely not the most terrifying Chu Yang. The current Chu Yang was the most terrifying Chu Yang. Chapter 1909. My master is really amazing. He instantly noticed that something was wrong with him and immediately adjusted himself. Whoever provokes such a person will probably be unlucky for 8 lifetimes. Bing Kun was amazed. If he faced such an opponent, he would definitely shudder in fear and would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Such a person would encounter difficulties and obstacles, but that would only be temporary. In the end, nothing could stop them. Starting from the direction of investigation is indeed a way, but it won't work. Chu Yang thought about Bing Kun's suggestion for a while and finally rejected it. In his previous life, He had read many stories about handling cases and investigating cases, but that was only limited to reading. When it came to putting it into practice, the difference was heaven and earth. He did not understand the various techniques and details needed to handle cases at all. Then we can only think of other ways? Bing Kuan's voice was unconsciously solemn. I want to go and have a drink with Zhang Jian. At the same time, I want to see if that guy is really a dead person. Chu Yang's tone was very relaxed. Bing Kuan was stunned when he heard that. He thought to himself, I've died once, but my mentality isn't as good as my master's. His tone also became relaxed. This is indeed a good idea. Master is definitely smart to the extreme. Haha, I think so too. Chu Yang laughed out loud. Amid his laughter, his figure disappeared in an instant. Night finally fell. An ink-like night. In the Zhongtian mountain range, the darkness of the night was even denser and thicker. It was like a huge curtain covering the entire mountain range. Nonetheless, the Zhongtian mountain range did not seem to be calm at night. People's hearts were restless, and it was much noisier than before. When a scream pierced the heart of the night, many people's hearts skipped a beat for no reason. In the night, cries of surprise and questions burst out in an instant. In the end, they converged into a noisy and chaotic nocturne. For many students from the 6 great academies, every scream in the Zhongtian mountain range seemed to mean that another holy disciple had died. Spots of fire and raging bonfires soon jumped out from the Zhongtian mountain range, lifting a corner of the thick night, allowing a trace of brightness to descend. Under the light of the fire, the students of the 6 great academies unconsciously gathered together. The hearts of the students of the 6 great academies wavered. Every one of them was filled with a sense of crisis. What happened during the day had a huge impact. In another location, it was also nighttime in the Middle Heaven mountain range. There wasn't a trace of light, nor was there a trace of fire. It was so dark that one couldn't even see one's own fingers. The darkness of the night here seemed to surpass all other places. It even proudly said that it was the darkest place here. Tap. In the extreme darkness, a crisp sound was suddenly heard. It seemed to be the sound of a chess piece being placed. But if it was the sound of a chess piece being placed, there should have been 2. But strangely, in the depths of the darkness, there was only one sound of a chess piece being placed. Who was playing chess in the dark? Have you found Chu Yang's whereabouts? After the sound of a piece being placed, a voice rang out in the darkness. Not yet. In the darkness, another voice rang out, replying, after Chu Yang killed Yen Taiyan and the others, he separated from Shangguan Lan and the others. After that, there was no trace of him. It was as if he had disappeared. The first voice did not continue to ask, but grasped a question in the conversation, asking, Are you sure that Yen Taiyan and the others were all killed by Chu Yang? Chapter 1910. Chu Yang was only at the 9th level of the Soul Amalgamation Realm, but he was able to kill 3 Life Spirit Realm cultivators. Wasn't this shocking news? However, the other person in the darkness didn't make a sound. He seemed to be listening quietly, but also seemed to be thinking. In addition, Yen Taiyan and the other 2 Death Spirit Realm cultivators, Jian San was strangled to death. However, from his corpse we found that he used Nirvana Flame. As for how he was killed, it is very likely that he underestimated Chu Yang and thought that Chu Yang couldn't do anything to him with Nirvana Flame. Therefore, he was strangled to death. Idiot! The other voice in the darkness finally sounded again, but this time, it was full of mockery. Jian San indeed deserved to die. The person who reported the situation continued, As for Yen Taiyan, from the way he died, it was obvious that he used death qi. His corpse looks neither human nor ghost. This person suddenly paused, and couldn't help but exclaim, The rumors that we spread before weren't actually false. This Chu Yang is really something that I have never seen before. That was the truth. The other person in the darkness smiled proudly and said, No matter what, the truth is always easier to believe. I just added a little spice to the truth. After that, he moved on to another issue. You can't relax even a little bit about Chu Yang's whereabouts. Even if you can't find him, you must continue to look for him for me. Do you understand? Yes. In addition, this operation has already shocked those old fellows. They are furious, but they can't find any clues. They have already sent people to invite the Central Province Divine Investigator. Divine Investigator? What level is he? The person was obviously shocked. He had heard of the Central Province Divine Investigator before and knew that he was very powerful. He told you not to worry. He will take care of the Divine Investigator. No one knew who this so-called he was. So I don't need to pay attention to him? Yes. What other plans does he have? Act according to the plan. If there are any changes, you will make the decision. This person was very happy with such a decision. Then, he continued, there are still a few saints to be killed. Tell him not to waste any more time. Before anyone can react, we should move on to the next step. He also said that you don't have to worry about it at all. You just need to take care of the matters here in the Middle Sky mountain range. Oh! This person's voice became even more cheerful, and he couldn't help but laugh. He teased, you're the one. What kind of mood is that Chu Yang in right now? Is he angry or anxious? Are you impatient or desperate? From his joy, it was obvious that he really wanted to see Chu Yang's current state. To him, this was a wonderful thing. The other person immediately laughed. I'm afraid both. In fact, in my opinion, his emotions should be more complicated. Who knows where he is right now, madly venting his emotions. I don't want him to get angry now. Hearing this person completely understood. Then, he said, yes, if he is angry now, it means that he hasn't figured out our whole plan. In this way, he will be afraid, let alone desperate. How boring that is! If that's the case, I'm sure my young master will be very dissatisfied. The person playing chess in the dark seemed to be Yi Yu, and the one talking to Yi Yu seemed to be Han Zhong. The young master that Han Zhong mentioned was, of course, Nangong Xing. However, in this world, Nangong Xing was not the only young master, and Han Zhong was not the only loyal servant. Chapter 1911. Chu Yang wanted to find out from Zhang Jian who had ordered Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. Zhang Jian wanted to find out from Chu Yang if Chu Yang had killed Overlord Jian. They wanted to find each other, but their actions were completely different. Chu Yang used all his means to find Zhang Jian, but Zhang Jian had no intention of looking for Chu Yang. He stayed beside Feng Polong and did not move at all like a dead person. Zhang Jian was at the side, and Feng Polong felt as if he was in prison. Fortunately, he was also looking forward to going to prison. Because of Yu Chuyang's matter, of course, he was also very interested, extremely interested. Therefore, he and Zhang Jian were waiting for Chu Yang's arrival. This was no different from waiting for a rabbit to appear. It looked very stupid, so stupid that it could die. However, Feng Polong did not have any objections to Zhang Jian's stupid actions. He even thought that Zhang Jian was extremely brilliant. Only a fool would look for Chu Yang. If anyone found Chu Yang now, they would be a fool among fools. Chu Yang was at the cusp of the storm, so it would be easy to find him. He was already a dead person, and definitely not a living person. As for those who could find Chu Yang, it was definitely not because he was powerful. It was because Chu Yang allowed him to find him. And by the time he found Chu Yang, it would be the time of his death. Zhang Jian was not stupid, and of course, he did not want to die. This was because searching for Chu Yang was an act of hostility to Chu Yang. Therefore, he could only wait for Chu Yang to find him. Perhaps he would never be able to wait for Chu Yang, but this was his only choice. At midnight, someone came. The light of the fire shone on the person, and the person had a smile on his face. The smile on that person's face seemed to be telling everyone that he was the luckiest and happiest person in the world. Seeing such a person and such a smile, whether it was Zhang Jian or Feng Polong, they could not help but be stunned. It was as if that guy should not be smiling now. He should be crying. You seem to be very happy after killing quite a number of saints? For some reason, Zhang Jian's tone was filled with anger. This was completely different from his usual self. Usually, Zhang Jian's voice should be emotionless. It was as cold as ice, as hard as a rock, and as indifferent to the extreme as if he was talking to you from 1,000 miles away. This person was naturally Chu Yang. Chu Yang's smile became even happier. I've killed so many saints, of course. I'm so happy that I'm about to die. Zhang Jian's fixed pupils suddenly moved as if he was a zombie. His voice suddenly turned cold as well. So you're saying that you were the one who killed Overlord Jian? Of course. Chu Yang was still smiling, and his smile was even brighter. He even said proudly, "Other than me, who else can kill Overlord Sword? I'm unprecedented." All of Zhang Jian's fierceness instantly disappeared, and his pupils seemed to have been fixed again. You can still laugh and make fun of this matter. This is really a kind of ability. The fact that Chu Yang had come was enough to explain many problems. Zhang Jian was not so stupid as to not be able to tell whether Chu Yang was lying or telling the truth. Chu Yang pinched his chin and nodded. He had no choice but to admit it. Therefore, he became even more proud. This is indeed a kind of ability. So, I also admire myself very much. Crying will make your life richer and more appropriate. Feng Polong was really a little jealous of Chu Yang's virtue because he could not do it. If his big brother was captured, he might be killed at any time. If he was still in a mess, he would definitely not be able to smile. Even if he smiled, his smile would definitely not be as bright as Chu Yang's. Chapter 1912. Feng Polong lost his temper and shut his mouth. He had a premonition that if he continued to speak, not only would he be at a disadvantage, but he would also be extremely jealous. "Did you kill Overlord Sword?" Zhang Jian asked again. Chu Yang glanced at Zhang Jian and said with a smile, "Do you want to hear the truth or a lie? What do you think?" "I've already told you." Zhang Jian did not ask any more questions. Words were indeed the most direct way of communication. However, there were many other ways to communicate between people, such as body movements, subtle expressions, and so on. He wanted to hear the truth, and Chu Yang had indeed told the truth. As for whether he understood or not, that was his problem, not Chu Yang's. At this moment, Zhang Jian felt that if he were Chu Yang, he would definitely not choose to use his mouth to speak, because not only could his mouth tell the truth, but it could also tell lies. At such a time, the words that came out of a person's mouth were very pale and difficult to convince others. How could Chu Yang do such a foolish thing? "Do you think you'll win?" Zhang Jian asked this question for a reason. Chu Yang was giving off such a feeling. "Of course I'll win. The person who killed Overlord Sword is definitely a saint." "Saint, how will you deal with it?" "Why can't a saint deal with it?" Zhang Jian was dumbfounded. Chu Yang was much more unique than him. "Are you done asking?" As soon as Chu Yang finished speaking, Zhang Jian immediately said, "Do you want to know who ordered Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming?" "Sorry, I can't tell you." "Did I ask you this question?" Chu Yang was not surprised at all by Zhang Jian's answer. Zhang Jian choked again, so he completely shut up. The thing in front of him did not follow the rules at all. Chu Yang did not care. He suddenly poked Zhang Jian. His eyebrows stood up like swords, and his eyes widened like copper bells. "I can tell you clearly that I'm here to curse your mother today. The one who came to scold you is your mother. Do you want me to open my mouth and start scolding her now?" Feng Polong added from the side and reminded Zhang Jian, "This thing isn't a human. Once it starts cursing, I guarantee that you'll immediately take out your sword and slash people. You're here to curse? Zhang Jian said coldly. Are you saying that I'm guilty? Chu Yang's accusation was very simple. Without him, the matter between Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming would not have happened, and Chu Yang would not have completely fallen into the other party's rhythm. Because of this, Zhang Jian was guilty, a great crime. Zhang Jian had nothing to do with the deaths of Overlord Sword and the other holy disciples. I didn't say you were guilty. Chu Yang flippantly rolled up his sleeves and was ready to start scolding people. This marshal said that this marshal is here to scold people. That person shouldn't have been your mother, but I'm sorry, she might become your mother in the future. Besides, I have a rich vocabulary, so I won't repeat myself. I'll definitely make you feel extremely good. I also guarantee that listening to my scolding is better than studying for 10 years. Your ability to scold people will soar to the level of a saint. The corner of Zhang Jian's mouth could not help but twitch. Even if he had not heard of Chu Yang's character before, he believed that this thing could do that. Why don't you scold yourself for being an idiot first? Fools have fools' luck. Chu Yang admitted that he was stupid. He had foolishly fallen into the pit that the other party had dug for him. How could he not be stupid? Nangong Xing. In the end, Zhang Jian spat out these words. It was not because Chu Yang was about to scold him, but because the situation was too serious. He had no choice but to say it. Even if he broke his promise, he was not a pedantic person. Nangong Xing? When these words entered his ears, Chu Yang frowned slightly. Then, he could not help but shake his head. There was no difference between hearing it and not hearing it. Zhang Jian spoke again. I don't think it's Nangong Xing. Chapter 1913. Then who do you think it is? When Zhang Jian asked Chu Yang for his opinion, Feng Polong immediately pricked up his ears. Who do you think will be the next saint to die? Chu Yang did not answer but asked instead. If he knew who the enemy was, he would not need to talk so much nonsense. Zhang Jian was silent for a long time. The dark night here suddenly became extremely silent. There was not a single sound, not even a gust of wind. Feng Polong hated this kind of silence. He asked, How can you be sure that the other party will still kill? Haven't the 6 great academies not started fighting yet? Do they need the 6 great academies to fight? They don't need the 6 great academies to fight, but at least they need to weaken the strength of the 6 great academies. Chu Yang only figured out this point on the way to find Zhang Jian. If the 6 great academies joined forces to create a crime for him, they would not need to go through so much trouble. The enemy in the dark was not from the 6 great academies, so the enemy's intention was clear: to weaken the strength of the 6 great academies. To the 6 great academies, every saint was a treasure and very important. They were the future of the 6 great academies. So it's not enough. Feng Polong understood what Chu Yang meant. At least for now, the other party is not satisfied with only killing a few saints. Can't they do it for the holy fetus? Zhang Jian asked. This reason seemed to be valid, but it was not bullshit. If it's just for the holy fetus, is there a need to go through so much trouble? Chu Yang smiled and said, The crudest and simplest way is to snatch it. When the competition is over and the holy fetus is found out, they can snatch it, can't they? If they could do whatever they wanted and kill saints crazily, how difficult would it be to snatch the holy fetus? It would be much easier to snatch it, and they would not cause such a big commotion. The price they would pay would not be so great, and they would not need to completely anger the 6 great academies. Zhang Jian shut his mouth again. He felt that this storm had just begun, but who would be the next to be killed? He. Chu Yang suddenly laughed and said to Zhang Jian, Have you heard of the saying, far away is right in front of you? Are you talking about me? Zhang Jian revealed a rare look of surprise. Ha ha. Not only did Chu Yang laugh, but Feng Polong also laughed out loud. Zhang Jian's surprised expression was really worth collecting. Your skills are truly profound. Even your nonsense is so exquisite. Feng Polong gave a thumbs up to Chu Yang and praised him sincerely. However, Feng Polong couldn't smile anymore when he heard the next sentence. It really is me. Zhang Jian frowned and said, If you kill me, won't it be better to prove that you're the murderer, you bastard? In the end, he was related to Chu Yang's elder brother being held hostage. Just this little bit of connection was enough for many people to have wild and fanciful thoughts. It was also enough for the other party to make a big fuss. You came to look for me because of this, not because of Nangong Xing. Zhang Jian seemed to have just understood Chu Yang's true intention, but Chu Yang shook his head and said, I only thought of it when I was laughing just now. Laughing? Zhang Jian was almost speechless again. He could only say, Laughing is a good thing. You're saying that I should laugh more in the future, right? No. Chu Yang was really amused this time. He said to Zhang Jian, I plan to use you as bait to fish. It seems that I don't have the right to refuse. You really don't. Of course, Zhang Jian did not have the right to refuse. Regardless of whether he was going to be the bait or not, the fish in the dark had already become the bait. No matter what, it would bite him, the bait. It was not up to him. Chapter 1914. Zhang Jian knew that he was in danger, but he hoped that the fish lurking in the dark would come because Overlord's sword was his friend. No, it should be said that they were brothers, one of the few brothers he had. Zhang Jian and Overlord's sword were childhood friends. They came from the same village and entered the Heavenly Sword Academy together. The difference was that Overlord's sword was more enthusiastic and had a wider circle of friends. On the other hand, Zhang Jian had always been a man of few words and was as cold as ice. He was like a dead man. Nevertheless, this did not prevent him from becoming brothers with Overlord's sword. They were closer than brothers. Chu Yang set up a formation and instructed the Ice Kuan that if he could not subdue the enemy, the Ice Kuan would immediately attack. He had made all kinds of preparations and was foolproof. It could be said that he only lacked the east wind. However, the east wind never came. Even when the sky was bright, the east wind still did not come. What they hoped for did not happen. It seems that not only is this fish not stupid, but it's also very unusual. Zhang Jian was very disappointed. Feng Polong was also very disappointed. Chu Yang was not too disappointed. If he could think of it, how could the other party not think of it? How could they be easily fooled? This was just a try. Shouldn't you laugh at this time? Zhang Jian suddenly laughed, and an extremely stiff smile appeared on his stiff face. He finally understood why Chu Yang, that bastard, had been laughing. It was because negative emotions such as disappointment were useless. There was only one thing that was useful, in his best state. He would never be discouraged and would never be defeated. This was also the best counterattack. At this moment, the enemy was probably mocking them, but if the other party knew that they were laughing, they would definitely not be in a good mood. Feng Polong also forced a smile. He felt that this was a little crazy, but it was indeed a very good choice. Sword Sun, around midnight last night, the Sky Academy's Shensi Long was killed. Someone from the Heavenly Sword Academy came to inform Feng Polong of the situation, causing Chu Yang and the other two to be shocked. The other party's appetite was indeed big, and their judgment was not completely wrong. For Zhang Jian and Feng Polong, their gains were even greater. They could completely confirm that the murderer was definitely not Chu Yang because Chu Yang had been with them the whole night. In the middle of midnight, the holy disciple of the Divine Firmament Academy, Ma Longting, was killed. He was stripped naked and hung up to dry. The informant spoke again, further proving that the culprit was definitely not Chu Yang. The informant was trying his best to slander Chu Yang, using Chu Yang to divert everyone's attention. When the blood god of the Heavenly Demon Academy is assassinated, Don't strip him naked and hang him up to dry. Hua Tianying, a holy disciple of the Star Academy, was assassinated in just one night. Nearly 10 holy disciples of the 6 great academies were killed. It could be said that the casualties were heavy. If this continued, all the holy disciples of the 6 great academies would be killed. What a big appetite! Feng Polong could not help but say angrily, "These bastards deserve to be killed." Zhang Jian was also filled with killing intent. "Go and tell the leader that I was with Chu Yang last night. The murderer is not Chu Yang." The informant suddenly felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His entire body trembled as he looked at Zhang Jian in shock. He could not believe it. This news was too shocking. He could not help but ask in a trembling voice, "Zhang Jian, is it true?" "It's true." Feng Polong naturally understood this person and explained, "Last night, Chu Yang came to find Zhang Jian and interrogated him about who ordered Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. I was there at that time." Chapter 1915. Yes. The heart of the person who came to report was still trembling, but he had no choice but to accept this fact. Almost everyone in the Heavenly Sword Academy knew about Zhang Jian. One could hear lies from his mouth. Moreover, Zhang Jian was not alone. The Sword Son of the Heavenly Sword Academy was also present. After thinking for a while, the person said again, "Zhang Jian, Sword Son, there's one more thing. The super arresters invited by the 6 great academies from Zhongzhou have arrived. They're currently investigating and solving the case." Super arresters? When Chu Yang and the other 2 heard this, their faces lit up. They immediately asked, "Where are they solving the case now?" According to the time, they're still investigating the cause of death of Long Shenxi from the Sky Academy. Long Shenxi was the first saint to be killed last night. Where is he? When this person said the location, he only heard the sound of something breaking through the air. When he looked over again, he couldn't see the figures of Chu Yang and the other 2 anymore. He couldn't help but be shocked in his heart. Zhang Jian and Sword Master are really terrifying. The person with Zhang Jian and Sword Master is also very shocking. Zhang Jian and the others were already terrifying. When he thought about the saints who were comparable to Zhang Jian being killed, his heart shuddered. How terrifying must the people who killed the saints be? It seems that Chu Yang is probably unprecedented. He can actually use Zhang Jian and the Sword Son to get in touch with the leader and use this to destroy the enemy's framing. At this moment, he admired Chu Yang, whom he had never met before, to the extreme. Facing such a terrifying enemy, not only could he protect himself, but he could even think of ways to destroy the enemy's means. After all, Chu Yang was the person they despised the most. As soon as Zhang Jian and the Sword Son saw Chu Yang, they would definitely draw their swords and fight him. How could they listen to Chu Yang's nonsense? However, Chu Yang did it. Zhang Jian and the Sword Son believed in him. Extraordinary. There's indeed someone extraordinary. At that moment, the person did not dare to delay. He immediately reported the matter that Feng Polong and Zhang Jian had told him to the leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy. Chu Yang was not the only one who knew about the arrival of the Central Prefecture super arresters. Many people also knew about it. Such news was definitely not some wonderful news, but something that was known to all. In order to reassure the students, the 6 great academies spread the news as soon as the condors of the central province arrived. They were afraid that the students would not know. Therefore, such news swept through the entire Culmination mountain range like a gale, causing many people to boil with excitement. Great, the super arresters of the central province are finally here. That murderer Chu Yang, his doomsday has come. This Chu Yang is the greatest evil in the East Continent. Even if the East Continent discriminates against him in the Eastern Wilderness, he shouldn't vent his dissatisfaction in such a way. Vent my dissatisfaction? You underestimate this Chu Yang too much. He clearly intends to overthrow the entire East Continent and return all the humiliation we inflicted on the Eastern Wilderness. In the end, it's all because some people in the East Continent think too highly of themselves, but we are the unlucky ones. The focus of the discussion quickly shifted from the super arresters to Chu Yang. Many people had even talked about the conflict between the Eastern Wilderness and the East Continent. Of course, there were also different voices. Many people had their own judgment. It's not necessarily true that Chu Yang is the murderer. If Chu Yang is unprecedented, why would he need to get the sacred embryo to save his elder brother? Indeed, this is the power. If that Chu Yang is truly unprecedented and can trample on the iron law of martial arts at will, then what can the person who kidnapped his elder brother count as? It's much easier to deal with those people than to deal with the holy disciples of the 6 great academies. Chapter 1916. As if it's true. That wild dog's goal is not only to save his elder brother, but also to overthrow the entire East Continent. This is just an opportunity for him to make trouble. The 6 Academies Alliance competition is such a rare opportunity. How can Wild Dog let it go? By causing conflicts between the 6 academies and weakening their strength, Wild Dog's strength will increase, and it will be easier for him to suppress the East Continent. In the crowd, some people were quarreling, and some even started fighting. But more people gathered towards the Central Prefecture condors, who were accompanied by the headmasters of the 6 academies. Of course, there were many discussions about the condors, and they even heard a lot of news. Only 2 condors came back this time. I wonder how good they are at solving cases? I also heard that one of them is called Tai Wuqing, and the other is called Ling Xiaoxiao. They are about 30 years old. Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao? I have never heard of these 2 names. They shouldn't be that famous, right? Immediately, someone refuted, it shouldn't be. According to what I know, Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao were invited by the 6 academies through the patrol inspector. Even if they are bad, they can't be that bad. The Central Prefecture dynasty was the center of the heavenly spirit world, and also the absolute ruler of the heavenly spirit world. Under the sky, all land belonged to the emperor. On the shores of the land, all subjects were the emperor's subjects. Therefore, even if the Central Prefecture dynasty didn't send any official to the East Continent, the East Continent still belonged to the Central Prefecture dynasty. The patrol inspector of the East Continent, in a real sense, was the only official sent by the Central Prefecture dynasty in the East Continent, and had supreme power in the East Continent. Not only people cared about the condors of the Central Prefecture, but Chu Yang also cared about the condors of the Central Prefecture, and so did his opponents. Yi Yu was still in the same valley. It was still so quiet, and he was still the only one there, playing chess with himself. After hearing about the condors of the Central Prefecture, Han Zhong came to the valley again. Unlike the previous time when he was filled with anger, this time he was deeply worried. As soon as he saw Yi Yu, he said, "The 6 academies invited the condors of the Central Prefecture through the patrol inspector. You should know this, right?" When Yi Yu saw Han Zhong's worried expression, he involuntarily let out a strange smile. Soon after, he calmly said, "I naturally know. Do you have any countermeasures? Do we need to respond?" Yi Yu sneered and said, "So what if they are the super arresters of the Central Plains? They are all idiot. How can they figure out my plan?" Han Zhongyu was a little dissatisfied with Yi Yu's arrogance, but he did not show it. He said tactfully, "I think it's better to be a little more cautious." Tap. Yi Yu put down a chess piece and smiled. Then he said, "Since you are so worried, I will go and have a look at the so-called super arresters of Zhongzhou province, and see how they are doing." Han Zhong was shocked. "Isn't it inappropriate for you to go out?" In his opinion, Yi Yu's legs were chopped off, and he appeared in the field as a cripple. It was extremely eye-catching and would definitely be noticed by others. If that was the case, the losses would outweigh the gains. Don't worry. You didn't care. How could Han Zhong not worry? He said again, your legs were chopped off by Chu Fei. Many people in the Sky Academy know about the grudge between you and Chu Fei. Once you appear and are noticed by others, it will inevitably be exposed. If Chu Yang finds out, the consequences will be unimaginable. Haha. You couldn't help laughing. Wasn't it more interesting? If he kept hiding behind and couldn't see Chu Yang's painful appearance, how could he be satisfied? How could he complete the perfect revenge against Chu Fei? However, he naturally wouldn't say it out loud. Han Zhong, you are too careful. Even if Chu Yang knows that I am his elder brother's enemy, will he care about a cripple like me? Chapter 1917. The place where Long Shensi died was a very good place to set up camp. The grass was luxuriant, and fresh flowers were embedded in the rich green. The terrain was neither high nor low. It was relatively dry, open, and flat. There was also a water source nearby. A small stream gurgled, and the sound of the stream was very pleasant to the ears. At this moment, the sound of the stream had been completely drowned out by the clamor of the people. There were too many people gathered on the ground and in the air. There was only a gap where Long Shensi died, and there were 7 or 8 figures in it. Looking from afar in the air, the densely packed crowd looked like a colony of ants, and the 7 or 8 figures in the gap seemed to be the queen of ants. When Chu Yang, Zhang Jian, and Feng Polong arrived, they couldn't squeeze in at first. It wasn't until everyone realized that Zhang Jian was a saint of the Sky Sword Academy, and Feng Polong was the saint of the Sky Sword Academy that the crowd automatically made way for them. Chu Yang followed behind the two in a low-key manner. He had naturally changed his appearance long ago. Even if there were saints present, they wouldn't be able to see through him. He had already confirmed this from the Ice Koan. The Ice Koan was a koan, a top-notch saint. If he couldn't see through it, no saint would be able to see through it. Excuse me, can you make way? When Feng Polong spoke, Chu Yang finally entered the place where Long Shensi died. However, when he suddenly arrived, he saw that with Long Shensi's corpse as the center, there was at most a 3-meter circle that no one had set foot on. The rest of the area was completely trampled under the feet of the crowd. The 2 divine detectives of the Central Prefecture, are they so weak? In an instant, Chu Yang was very disappointed with the 2 so-called divine detectives. As experts in solving cases, they didn't even know the importance of the scene. They didn't even protect the scene well. In Long Shensi's camp, there was a pile of huge dragon bones near the extinguished bonfire. There seemed to be a faint smell of meat in the air. Obviously, Long Shensi's purple dragon had been eaten by the other party. The murderer was very arrogant. After killing people, he was still eating heartily, but Chu Yang did not have the mind to care about this. When he saw that the pile of dragon bones was also full of people, he couldn't help but frown. The dragon bones were the place where the criminals had stayed. It was very likely that they had left behind important information and clues. How could such an important place be destroyed? Are these 2 super arresters from the Central Plains 2 good-for-nothings? When Chu Yang asked Zhang Jian and Feng Polong, the 2 of them were stunned. This was because Chu Yang was still looking forward to it, but in the blink of an eye, Chu Yang had a completely different attitude. How do you know that they are good-for-nothings when they just arrived? Chu Yang said disdainfully, you 2 are also good-for-nothings. They had also been scolded, but what was the basis for calling them good-for-nothings? Feng Polong was really annoyed. King Chu bastard, if you can't come up with a good reason, believe it or not, I'll just roar and you'll be dead. You don't even know the most basic common sense. If I tell you, you won't understand either. It's like listening to a heavenly book. It's a waste of my saliva. Chu Yang was completely disappointed. He thought to himself, could it be that the so-called super arresters of the Central Plains are so bad? Is there a need to be so bad? If the super arresters of the Central Plains were only so good, he might as well do it himself. Fortunately, he still had some common sense in criminal investigation. You know how to solve cases? Zhang Jian was a little surprised. Is there anything you don't know? Feng Polong realized that he was even more jealous of Chu Yang, that bastard. No! If you don't know, then what are you talking about? I don't know, but I know at least common sense. After Chu Yang pointed at the dragon bones, he said something. Zhang Jian and Feng Polong could not help but frown. This damn bastard was right. Chapter 1918. You two good-for-nothings, hurry up and fart. Hurry up and tell the people at the dragon bones to get lost. Perhaps there'll still be some dregs left. Chu Yang really wanted to curse. Yes, yes, yes. Feng Polong could not help but say it out loud. Then, he immediately said to the people at the dragon bones, the culprit has been there before. All of you, hurry up and leave. Also be careful. Don't destroy the scene there anymore. Rise to the sky. Zhang Jian only spat out 2 words. The people at the dragon bones were in an uproar when they heard this. Immediately, many people moved their feet and stomped on the ground, causing Chu Yang's face to darken. He sent a voice transmission and cursed at Feng Polong and Zhang Jian. Is this how you do things? I said that you're good-for-nothings. Am I wrong? Zhang Jian's face, which was like a dead man's, could not help but darken. Feng Polong felt that he was about to become a good-for-nothing. What was this? He had already made it very clear. I #yen%%. With a clang, Feng Polong was furious and directly drew his sword. After cursing out loud, he roared, Is it that hard to understand what I'm saying? If anyone dares to destroy that place again, I may recognize you, but my sword won't recognize you. He was truly furious. Moreover, he could foresee that King Bastard Chu would definitely use this matter to talk about it in the future. Therefore, when he saw the people at the dragon bones, there was another commotion. They stomped on the ground again, and even knocked down the dragon bones. Zhang Jian's vision turned black, and he almost fell over. The footprints that King Bastard Chu mentioned were a bunch of bullshit. It seemed that there was nothing left. I #yen%%. Feng Polong was really about to fly into a rage. He cursed again and really wanted to kill someone. Zhang Jian's face became darker. The most humiliating thing in his life had happened just like that. Finally, everyone left the dragon bone. Feng Polong flew over and saw the dense footprints on the ground. He almost fell out of the sky like a bird with a broken wing. He was speechless. He couldn't hold back his anger and said, I, Feng Polong, have really lost all face this time. In an instant, everyone's gazes couldn't help but look over in astonishment. The heads of the 6 great academies also looked over at this moment. The Heavenly Sword Academy's Academy Master's face sank. He reprimanded, What are you yelling about? Don't you see the 2 divine investigators here? Feng Polong really wanted to curse out loud again. What a bullshit super arrester, what a bullshit case he solved. He didn't even know common sense. However, he didn't shout in the end. Chu Yang really couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up and cupped his fists at the people around him. Everyone, this is the crime scene. Every place is likely to have traces of the murderer, as well as various clues. Therefore, when you leave, I ask you to be careful. Slow down, be careful, and try not to destroy the crime scene. He naturally saw Feng Polong's encounter just now. Therefore, he added, Everyone, you can discuss it after you leave. But now I ask you to be careful. Don't destroy the crime scene again. Soon, everyone retreated nearly 300 feet away. Their movements were very careful, as if they were dealing with a newborn baby. Feng Pelong's vision darkened again when he saw how they were so careful. It was the same thing, but the results were completely different. Chapter 1919. Chu Yang did not notice Yi Yu, because at this moment, the two condors of Zhongzhou were already looking at him. One of them had a face similar to Zhang Jian's. He was incomparably cold, as if he was carved out of stone. The other person was very fat with a smile, like a smiling Mithraea. The crowd couldn't help but fall silent. Chu Yang's actions just now were tantamount to slapping the two condors of Zhongzhou in the face. How could this be? At least, that was what many people thought. At this moment, there was no one around Yi Yu who could be ordered around. Han Zhong was not here. Therefore, he could only do it himself. How dare you? Where did you come from? This is not a place where you can do whatever you want. As soon as the voice came out, Chu Yang immediately glanced over. When Yi Yu's eyes met with Chu Yang's, he suddenly felt his heart palpitate for no reason. However, he found it strange that although Chu Yang's gaze was a little fierce, there was nothing strange about it. Why did it give him such pressure? At first, Yi Yu believed that this person was his greatest enemy. He even felt that he was very likely to die in his hands. This guy must not be allowed to live. The killing intent in Yi Yu's heart grew stronger, and he spoke again. Am I wrong? The two masters of Zhongzhou will be the ones to decide the case. How can you be so irresponsible? As soon as he spoke again, the crowd was in an uproar. That's right. If we need to retreat, don't the two condors of Zhongzhou know? Do they still need him to make the decision? Who does he think he is? Is he more amazing than the two condors? What do you mean by destroying the scene? Does he know how to solve the case? We shouldn't have listened to his nonsense just now. It's ridiculous. We were actually scolded by a madman. Immediately, someone approached again. At this moment, Zhang Jian's cold voice rang in everyone's ears. Those who dare to approach will die. With just this sentence, the sound of a sword rang out from Zhang Jian's body, causing those who were about to take a step forward to stiffen and stop in their tracks. This lowly one will sneer at you. Among the two super-arresters from the central prefecture, the one who looked like a smiling Mithraea smiled at Chu Yang, clasped his hands and said, May I know your name, young friend? Sneer? When Chu Yang suddenly saw the cold smile on Xiao Zhao's face, he couldn't help but feel that there was a knife hidden in this smile. Lu San. The surname Chu easily reminded people of his real name. This time, Chu Yang used his mother's surname. Little friend Lu, may I ask which sect you belong to? Sure enough, there was a knife hidden in a smile. Although the smile was very kind, it was a perfect match when paired with the word cold. At this moment, Chu Yang was really cold. He had offended Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao, the two super-arresters. When Ling Xiaoxiao asked about his master, it was the prelude to a quarrel. Previously, his various actions were obviously seen by the two of them as another method of solving the case, and Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao were another method of solving the case. At this moment, the conflict between the two sides would eventually evolve into a conflict between two methods of solving the case. Such a conflict was not as simple as the academic conflict in Chu Yang's previous life. In the heavenly soul world, such a conflict was a conflict of inheritance. It was related to the face of the sect, and it was almost equivalent to a conflict of life and death. Of course, Chu Yang did not have a sect to solve the case. However, if he dared to talk nonsense without a sect, the consequences would be even more serious. There's no other way. Chu Yang intended to fool them and said, I wonder if the two of you have heard of 007. It was not an ordinary nonsense, but an extraordinary nonsense. Since it was nonsense, he did not care. 007. After Tai Wuqing and Ling Xiaoxiao heard it, the two of them could not help but look at each other. They could see the confusion and surprise in each other's eyes. Chapter 1920. After Tai Wu Qing and Sneer Shao confirmed for a while, they said, "Little friend Lu, do you really think we can be bullied?" Tai Wu Qing had a cold face. It was impossible to see the change in his mood, but Sneer Shao had completely disappeared. Feng Polong saw this and immediately sent a voice transmission. "Can you be more reliable? Making a 007, do you want to tell everyone that you are Eastern Wilderness 002? When Chu Yang heard this, he felt that it was true. The so-called East Wasteland 002 originally came from 007. You two have never heard of it, does it not exist? Naturally, he did not panic. When he said 007, he already knew that this would be the result. Have you two ever heard of the collection of innocence? Prison affairs should not be more important than the great punishment should not be more important than the first love, and the first love should not be more important than the examination. Life and death is the power to enter and exit, and the opportunity to bend and stretch in the dark. Therefore, the decision is made. Therefore, in the law, there is no need to be more careful." Listening to such profound words, Feng Polong was so surprised that his eyes popped out and he thought, "Oh my God, this guy Chu, is he really proficient in the art of solving cases?" Chu Yang knew nothing, but he only remembered bits and pieces. "I say, that guy, is there really such a person as 007? Feng Polong was very concerned about this point, and even at this moment, he could not help but send a voice transmission to ask, "What do you think?" Chu Yang was very speechless. "You know I'm talking nonsense, why ask?" "I hate these 3 words. If you don't tell the truth, I'm going to tell on you." "Of course there is. How can there not be such a person as 007? Feng Polong understood. This guy's courage is really not ordinary. He actually used a groundless lie to fool 2 Zhongzhou super arresters. However, he was shocked to find that Tai Wu Qing and Sneer Zhao's expressions had eased slightly. Obviously they believed it. After being speechless for a while, Feng Polong began to criticize in his heart. Are those 2 super arresters from the Central Plains stupid? Chu Yang did not pay any more attention to Feng Polong and continued, "Have the 2 of you ever heard of traceology, anatomy? The 2 of you, what method did you use to determine the cause of death of the deceased, and the approximate time of death? Do the 2 of you know anything about crime scene investigation records, interrogation of suspects?" His 2 mouths chattered for a while. There were a lot of things that even he himself wasn't clear about because his memory was really a little fuzzy. Generally speaking, he poured out all the things that he had seen in his previous life that were related to solving cases. To the crowd, what they heard was bullshit. However, when Tai Wu Qing and Ling Xiao heard this, their expressions became more and more serious. A small clue reveals the general situation. The 2 of them were very professional. Although Chu Yang only said some bits and pieces, they found many possibilities from it. The endless and vast world shocked them again, and they were deeply shocked. Some of them, they had never even heard of it. However, after thinking about it, they found that it contained great truth, which was extremely helpful in solving cases. The 2 of them instantly concluded that if they were proficient in what Chu Yang said, their method of solving cases would reach a higher level. However, in this way, Chu Yang's sect would appear to be very powerful. On the other hand, their sect would be at a disadvantage and lose face in the Dongzhou continent. How could they accept that? "Little friend Lu, since you want to compete with us in the art of solving cases." Sneer Shao stretched out his hand and said to Chu Yang, "Little friend Lu, please." The crowd was shocked. This was equivalent to the 2 super arresters acknowledging Chu Yang, and Chu Yang relied on that nonsense. Chapter 1921. Chu Yang smiled bitterly. He knew it would be like this, but he did not avoid it in the end. "Uncles!" He cupped his fists at the 2 of them and said again, Solving a case is to redress the grievances of the deceased, to punish evil and to uphold justice on behalf of the heavens. This is a sacred thing. Why do we need to compare? Why do we need to decide who is better? Unfortunately, we can't escape from this. The martial arts sects have such a strange cycle. Not only do they cherish what they have, but they also fight and kill each other. It's really sad. My ancestor 007, every time he thinks of this, he can't help but sigh. He once said that if we put aside the competition between sects and communicate with each other, there will be fewer unjust cases in this world, and it will definitely be brighter. At this point, Chu Yang said seriously, "I didn't mean to offend you, uncles. I was just a little anxious just now, so I was so rash just now. Please forgive me, uncles." He did not know how much of an effect such words could have, but when he saw that Tai Wu Qing and Leng Xiaoxiao were moved, his heart immediately calmed down. What little friend said just now really makes this Leng ashamed. I don't deserve to be called uncle. Sneering coldly, he continued with a straight face, "Little friend's words can be said to be a wake-up call to this Leng. Little friend, the ancestral master is right. Upholding justice is the most important thing. It is also the responsibility of our generation. Little friend, please accept my bow." He moved so quickly that Chu Yang could not stop him in time. After thinking about it, he could not help but respect Leng Xiaoxiao and Tai Wu Qing even more. The East Continent discriminated against the Eastern Wilderness, and the Central Continent discriminated against the East Continent. However, Leng Xiaoxiao and Tai Wu Qing could put aside their discrimination and go to the East Continent from the Central Continent to solve the case. This was a commendable thing. "I'm even worse." Tai Wu Qing also bowed to Chu Yang. Chu Yang could not stop them. He smiled bitterly in his heart. "I bullied an honest person again. Please don't be struck by lightning." This. Yi Yu's pupils shrank at the sight of this. His original intention was to incite a fierce battle between the two sides so that he could destroy everything and watch the show from the sidelines. However, such a result had caught him off guard. It was as if he had been suddenly slapped in the face. What Yi Yu was most worried about was that both sides had different methods of solving cases. If they were combined, he was afraid that there would be a great change. Perhaps it would cause all his previous proud works to go down the drain. This was something he could not bear. Where did this little bastard come from? With just a few words, Chu Yang had resolved the dispute between the super arresters. It was truly shocking. Yi Yu was deeply worried. He looked at Chu Yang again. When Chu Yang's appearance was reflected in his pupils, he felt as if a needle had pierced his eyes. My feeling is not wrong. This Lu San is definitely a great enemy of mine. He felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in his throat, and he couldn't sit still. His heart was like an ant on a hot pan, and he was extremely anxious. "Uncles, I'm so ashamed that I can't show my face." Chu Yang began to excuse himself. "Actually, I don't know anything about the art of solving cases. It's just that I'm often around uncles, so I know a little about it. Just now, I really overstepped my boundaries." "Nephew Lu, don't be modest," Tai Wu Qing said. "According to what you said just now, why don't you solve cases together with us? This way, we can learn from each other. This is like forcing a duck onto a perch." Chu Yang was depressed, but who asked him to take out such a righteous offer? Now, he couldn't refuse. In that case, Junior will have no choice but to comply. "Uncles, I hope that you will be able to tolerate my ignorance." Chapter 1922. He was the first to arrive at the pile of dragon bones. When he saw the densely packed footprints, he shook his head. "This is hopeless. The culprit should have stayed here before, so there might be footprints, hair, etc. Through the footprints, we might be able to determine the culprit's height and weight." Tai Wuching and Sneer Smile naturally understood this. Although their methods of solving cases rarely involved this, they still knew about it. Of course, they also had their doubts. Nephew Lu, what is the use of the culprit's hair? Chu Yang's body stiffened, as if he just realized that this was not his past life, but the heavenly spirit realm. However, his mind turned quickly, and he immediately explained in terms of martial arts. Uncles, you should know about rebirth from a drop of blood, right? He continued, the reason why a drop of blood can be reborn is because a drop of blood contains a creature, the most essential and unique thing in their life. Hair is the same, so after obtaining hair, we can use a certain method to analyze the most essential and unique thing in the hair. From this, we can even directly restore the culprit's appearance. Yes, that is true. Tai Wuching slapped his forehead and said, hearing Nephew Lu's words, I just remembered that the Ghost God sect in the Central State has a secret technique that uses blood to solve cases. They use the blood of the culprit to perform divination and can directly divine the culprit. However, I heard that such a secret technique is extremely difficult to perform. This was simply a completely different method of solving a case. Chu Yang felt as if a window had been opened in front of him. Inside the window, there were all kinds of novel things. Everything in martial arts could be used in solving cases. From this, he also understood why in the heavenly spirit realm, there was a difference between the divine arresters because it involved martial arts. That's right. Hearing this, Lung Xiaoxiao nodded and said, based on the secret technique that Nephew Lu just mentioned, I don't think we can use it. That might not be the case. Chu Yang treated the saints as instruments and said, we don't need to be reborn from a drop of blood, and we don't need to create a creature from hair. It's just that to find the culprit's clues, the price we have to pay won't be so great. The saints should be able to perform the divination. Their eyes lit up when they heard this. They were saints themselves, so they couldn't help but ask, little friend, do you know how to deduce? When Yi Yu, who was in mid-air, heard this, his heart skipped a beat. His whole body broke out in cold sweat, and he could not help but tremble. How could he still be as complacent as before? Chu Yang was stumped again. He just didn't want the topic to be too heavy. In addition, he felt that a saint would be able to do it, so he made up nonsense. At this moment, he was about to force himself to his death. There was before. The more he spouted, the more exaggerated his lie became. But because of self-preservation, even those from the same sect would have some reservations. As time passed, the most crucial part of the secret technique was lost. In the end, the entire secret technique was completely lost. Sigh. Chu Yang let out a long sigh, which made Lung Xiaoxiao and Tai Wuching feel deeply moved. Such a situation had happened in their sect as well. In their lineage, there used to be a secret method of solving cases, but it was lost because of this. Just by chance, I actually managed to touch on the bottom of their hearts. I'm really lucky. Having passed this hurdle, Chu Yang was sweating profusely in his heart. That's really a pity. It's really a pity. Lung Xiaoxiao and Tai Wuching sighed in the end. Chu Yang couldn't help but feel guilty. He could only try his best to recall, and said everything that might be useful. This made the two of them feel refreshed, and they had a great realization. They felt that they could use their own martial arts to realize what Chu Yang said. Both sides talked to each other. Tai Wuching were amazed. They felt refreshed. Chu Yang was also the same. He couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, martial arts is completely the science and technology of the heavenly spirit world. On the other hand, Chu Yang also realized that the various methods of criminal investigation could be turned into martial arts and used on the martial arts. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.